I couldn't actually draw the bow fully, which was why I couldn't solo both targets. I lacked the power to pierce the boar's armor. I had to sacrifice the skill points from the boar to ensure the leopard was dealt with. Reaching my position, I signaled Huang and waited. At 40 meters, I was downwind, keeping me hidden from the leopard's sensitive nose. Otherwise, the cat would have surely detected me. Perched in a tree, I had a clear view of both targets. Shan and Huang arrived with the catch. Why bring the prey? You'll alert the leopard. I hissed. They had brought a 50-pound Siberian roe deer, already gutted. The strong scent of blood was a major risk. Huang took the Hanyang 88, ordered the others to move the prey away, and signaled me. I aimed, my eyes locked on the leopard's pattern. Using my full strength, I pulled the bow to a near full moon to ensure penetration. Whoosh! The arrow struck. The leopard shrieked. Bang! Huang fired. Whoosh! My second arrow pierced the neck of a fleeing female wild boar. The Pao Lanzi's thick, mud-caked hide was impenetrable to anything less than a two-sure bow. The female boar, however, was smaller and less armored. Whoosh! Another arrow flew at the leopard. The leopard was hit in the neck and fell, then took an arrow to the thigh as it tried to rise. It shrieked again, immobilized. Asterisk bang, bang, bang. Asterisk Huang Shan, and Huang fired their rifles. They wounded the remaining fleeing boars. Debao Hutu chase. The 8 dogs surged forward. Huang approached the Pao Lanzi, which lay dying with a shattered skull. The leopard struggled on the ground, unable to move due to the arrows in its neck and leg. Huang cycled his bolt and approached. You okay? I jumped down, grinning. I'm fine. The leopard is finished. Help the others with the boars. No need. The dogs have the rest under control. I fired one last arrow from 20 meters, piercing the leopard's skull. It died instantly, granting me 20 experience points. With previous kills, my total reached 83 skill points. The archery skill remained gray. I likely needed 100 points to reach level 10. I noted my stats. Age 19, Physique 10, Strength 15, Speed 10. Skills: Fishing 4-3, Basic Archery 4-9, Tracking 4-7, Dog Training 4-1, Combat Fighting 4-1. Skill points: 83. Other skills could be upgraded, but Basic Archery was grayed out, meaning 83 points were insufficient. Forget it, I'll save them. Current levels are enough. I dragged the leopard over and piled it with the trap and the sow. Huang shouldered his Hanyang 88 and used a dagger to gut the trap-caught prey to feed the dogs later. You watch closely, but don't know how to skin them? I nodded, admitting my ignorance. Haha, we won't skin them here. I'll teach you back at the village. Huang admired the young man's stature, archery, and the courage to hunt a leopard alone. He wondered who had trained such an impressive youth. He didn't believe I was self-taught. Huang Shan and Huang returned, carrying 3 small wild boars between them. A total haul. We got 3, I got a sow, and Uncle got the trap-caught one, 5 pigs in total. A massive harvest. Enough bragging. Gather the prey, we need to leave. Huang Shan ordered Huang to collect the rest. Huang grumbled, but went to help, knowing he couldn't carry the 50-pound roe deer alone. They returned, and Huang Shan fed the dogs. We can't carry all this. Don't worry, we'll manage or run into villagers. As he spoke, movement rustled in the grass. I smelled cigarette smoke. A heavy smoker was nearby. I stayed quiet to avoid attention. Oh, it's Uncle Laozhan. Huang Shan and Jianmin went to greet them. I and Huang stayed seated. The group approached. Uncle Laozhan was a close kinsman of Huang Shan. Laozhan, Jianmin, and Huang Hongxing shared the same grandfather. Hello, Uncle Laozhan. I stood and greeted him. Out of respect for his age and kinship, it was the proper thing to do. You're Suyu? Jianmin says you're an expert archer. Who killed all this? I shook my head, denying the credit. No, I just helped out. Uncle Huang is being too kind. Haha, don't be modest. Jianmin told me you're Suyu's partner. Good. She has an eye for talent, and you saved her father. It's a perfect match. I, Huang Shan, and Huang looked awkward. The partner claim had been a convenient excuse used during registration. Now that Laozhan took it seriously, they couldn't explain without embarrassing Jianmin. Cough. I have feelings for Suyi, but nothing is official. Please don't spread it, uncle. I had to speak up to avoid looking like a coward hiding behind the brothers. I decided to play along rather than expose Jianmin's lie. Exactly, uncle. They've only met a few times. Don't go around saying that. Laozhan glared, causing the 2-meter-tall Huang Shan to shrink back. They were raised to respect their elders, who were generally honorable men. Unlike my own clan, this family had no internal infighting. These are my sons, Huang He and Huang Hu. Together with Shan and Hai, they make mountain, river, lake, sea. I finally understood the naming convention. Jianmin's son was born later, so he didn't fit the sequence. The second generation had 3 character names, while the third had 2. I shook hands with the sons, both over 1.9 meters tall. I, at 1.85 meters, was the shortest but still taller than Jianmin and Laozhan. You've got too much to carry. We'll help you down the mountain. Laoshan's group had only caught a few birds. I carried the leopard and the sow. The others took the rest. They were exhausted, stopping frequently to rest under the weight of the haul. Jianmin, Jianjun, did you wholesale the mountain's wildlife? I realized Laoshan's name was actually Jianjun. The mountain nickname was just a descriptor. Cough, the kids caught it all. We're too old for this. Laozhan didn't want to admit he'd only caught a rabbit and a pheasant. Come on, help them out. The younger villagers rushed to assist with the load. Whoa, brother. Is that a leopard? You're rich. The exclamation drew everyone's attention. Who's this, brother? Before they could answer, Laozhan bragged. This is my niece's partner, CS Man. Huang Shan and Huang Hai panicked, knowing Sui would be furious when she heard the rumor. Every young man in the village stared, as Sui was the village beauty. Though many wanted her, their families warned that she was too foxy and not built for hard farm work. Rumors of her being a vixen who caused family discord were well known. Regardless, she was undeniably the prettiest girl in the village. The young men looked on with jealousy. I finally understood why Laozhan was called Mountain. He was a blunt, loudmouthed man. He had no filter, which was why Huang Hai had tried to silence him earlier. True to form, Laozhan introduced me to everyone they met on the way down. Before we reached the mountain foot, news of me had already spread. Huang Shan and Huang Hai gave up on secrecy. Once Uncle Laozhan knew, silence was impossible. Great-grandfather had said their line was loyal. Even when the invaders came, none turned traitor, thanks in no small part to Uncle Jianjun. Everyone feared that the moment you betrayed, Uncle Laozhan would make sure the whole village knew. Uncle Laozhan was that terrifying. Quiet. Tally the hunt. Team leaders, report to me. So you and Huang Hai go to my house. No need to wait. I'll queue with Uncle. Well, all right. 8 magpies, 5 huigo 8 sparrows. I took those myself. Pheasants and rabbits I left for Huang Shan to sell. He'd get a fair price, and I needn't watch him. The squirrels, magpies, and sparrows were dog food I meant to bring home. Wait, sneak this rabbit back. We'll stew it tonight. I'd finally come, so of course we should eat something good. The tally could drag on. Even a pig slaughter would wait till tomorrow. Too late for tonight. The rabbit was Huang Shan's kill. He hadn't taken one of mine. Not taking advantage was the Huang family's rule. I didn't refuse. I tucked the rabbit in my jacket, wrapped it, shouldered my bow, and headed for his home with Huang Hai. Come on, I'll stew rabbit for you. Huang Hai pulled me along. Second brother, you're back? Oh, Suyu? You went into the mountains today too. I hadn't visited the Huang home by day, but the household knew, including old man Huang. Yada simply hadn't seen me and thought I never came. Just back from the mountains. Long time no see. I waved and smiled. Huang Sui shot me a look, then nodded me inside. I was her father's savior. Even if she thought me a flirt, she couldn't bar the door. Cough, Suyu. Come in. Old man Huang leaned against bedding, quilted and frail, his wife attending. She hurried me in and offered water. Uncle Huang, Auntie Huang, sorry to trouble you again. Nonsense. You're our Huang family's lifesaver. Who dares call you a bother? I'll scold them senseless. Auntie Huang glared theatrically at her daughter. Huang Sui smiled sheepishly and poured me water from the thermos. Huang Hai followed us in. Dad, Mom, I brought a rabbit. We'll stew it for Brother Suyu tonight. I'll fetch liquor so we can drink with him. Normally she'd nag if the brothers drank, but with me visiting, Auntie Huang went out for liquor without a word. Sis, stay with Brother Su. I'll dress the rabbit and get it stewing. Huang Sui had no choice but to keep me company. She was grateful I'd saved her father, but last time I'd stared at her chest, and that first impression stuck. She always watched for my gaze, uneasy under it. I knew none of that. I didn't insist on helping Huang Hai with the rabbit. I just talked with old man Huang. After Huang Hai finished skinning, I excused myself and went out. Brother Xiaohai, lend me your skinning knife. I'll skin these Huigo before the pelts harden. Sure, or leave them. I'll do it. No, you're cooking. Leave it to me. I took the knife, about to start, when Huang Jiamin arrived. Skinning squirrels? Perfect. I'll teach you, just watch. On the mountain he'd offered to teach me. Auntie Huang had spotted her brother-in-law. Of course he'd keep me company tonight. Huang Shan and Huang Hai weren't taking hosting seriously enough. Old man Huang was bedridden. Huang Jiamin had hunted with them, so he was the right man to sit with me. He pulled a 3-gene pheasant from his jacket. He hadn't come empty-handed, and handed it to Huang Hai for drinking food. Then he squatted down to teach me skinning. 5 Huigo were toys in his hands, skinned in no time, pelts intact, better even than Shang Gur's work. Host, Su Yu, age 19, constitution 10, strength 15, speed 10. Skills, fishing LV3+, basic archery LV9, tracking 4+, 7+, dog training 4+1+, combat fighting 4+1+, skill, butchery/dissection 4+1+, skill points. 83, a new skill, butchery/dissection. I'd only skinned 1 Huigo myself as he taught, and it unlocked? Skills don't always unlock from doing a thing. I'd walked so far without gaining a running skill. I figured you needed both hands-on practice and conscious intent. Otherwise, everyday chores would have maxed nonsense skills long ago. Soon Auntie Huang returned with another woman, Huang Jiamin's wife. Since he was eating here, better not leave his wife cooking alone. Call her over to help and make it lively. I stood quickly and greeted her as Annie, junior as I was. I had to address everyone properly. Haha. Good. Xiaoyu's quite the looker. No wonder Sui took a fancy to him. Huang Sui heard, came out flushed. Little aunt, don't talk nonsense. When did I take a fancy to him? She had to deny it to her face. Still denying it? Uncle Laozhan told everyone. Why hide it from your own aunt? She looked at second brother. Huang Hai tried to slip out. Huang Hai, what's going on? She chased him out. Huang Jiamin's wife smiled awkwardly at youthful embarrassment and followed Auntie into the kitchen. On the way back, Auntie had already heard. Passers-by praised her fine son-in-law. Some envied her. Others thought that Fox had finally found a match and would stop troubling village men. Young men seeking wives always named someone like Huang Sui, and that set households into chaos, even family fights. That was why she rarely went out. I smiled sheepishly and said nothing. No good explanation yet, so I'd take it step by step. Outside, Huang Sui chased Huang Hai and cornered him by the firewood pile. He had no choice but to dump most of the blame on Big Brother and recount what happened on the mountain. What? Everyone knows? You and Big Brother are bullying me. Her eyes reddened. Reputation mattered, even as an unsettled partner arrangement. Misunderstanding was bad. Don't blame us, I told Dad, and he agreed. Using your fiancé as the excuse was the only way Brother Suyu could join. Humph. She snorted, ignored him, and went back in. Huang Hai wiped imaginary cold sweat and sheepishly followed. She glanced at me, ignored me, and stayed in the kitchen. I shrugged, ignored her too, and with Huang Jiamin lit a fire and treated the Huigo pelts with plant ash. I found sticks, stretched the skins taut in the shade, then went inside. Don't worry, Sui's just being temperamental. Coax her, and it'll be fine. Huang Jiamin patted my shoulder. Coax her? I thought she'd slap me. Better not. Huang Shan and Huang Hai had cooked up the excuse. I'd only gone along. I grinned, said nothing, went in, offered to Qianmin cigarettes to Huang Jiamin and Old Man Huang. Old Huang refused. Wounds. Smoking would slow healing. I didn't insist. We exchanged a look, stepped outside, lit up, and smoked. Soon Huang Shan returned empty-handed. The game was sold. Come on, time to split the money. He pulled me inside. Huang Shan, Huang Hai, Huang Jiamin, Huang Sui, Huang Jiamin's wife, Auntie Huang. The whole household gathered. Pheasants and rabbits were already stewing. A bit of firewood needed no watching for a while. First, 5 wild boar, 2 rabbits, 2 pheasants, 1 Siberian roe deer, 1 leopard, 1 musk deer. Uncle kept the musk deer, said it's a tonic. Our 2 families will split it later, so leave that out. The leopard pelt's mostly intact, only small holes at neck and thigh. The commune buyer priced the skin at 150 yuan, grade B. Leopard meat off the bone, about 60 jin at 4 Mao a jin, 24 yuan. 2 pheasants and 2 rabbits, 8 yuan total. The sow weighs over 200 jin. After removing 30 jin of bone, it's 170 jin of meat. Wild boar sells for 0.6 yuan per jin. Total comes to 102 yuan. That's 284 yuan total. Count it, it's all yours. Shan handed over the money. I counted it, nodded, then handed 80 yuan back to Shan. What's this for? I replied. It's the mountain rule. Everyone present gets a share. Shan refused, pushing the money back. We invited you to hunt. If we took a cut, why invite you? You could have hunted in Sanshuiwan. You only took what you caught. We won't take a cent of your earnings. Exactly, Huang Jiamin added. You've done the Huang family a favor. Keep the money. I had no choice but to accept. Then, they divided the rest. We have 1 Paolon Z and 3 wild boars. We already ate the pheasant and rabbit, so we're only splitting the boar money. The Paolon Z is 440 jin, net, and the 3 small boars total 260 jin, net. That's 700 jin total, totaling 420 yuan. But I deserve a share of the Paolon Z for spotting the predator. Otherwise, we couldn't have brought it back. It was true. Many hunters abandon their kill if a predator is nearby. Let's give me 120 yuan and split the remaining 300 between our 2 families. That would be 150 yuan each for Shan and Huang Hai. Agreed. Huang Jiamin consented immediately, ignoring his wife's glare. No, I can't take it. You didn't take a cut of my catch, so I won't take yours. I don't want the money. Just give me an extra pig head and a set of offal. Huang Jiamin was impressed by my integrity. The family had actually planned to give me a share as a thank you for saving their relative, regardless of my catch. They hadn't intended to cheat me, but my refusal to take the cash surprised them. I only wanted a pig head and offal, worth less than 20 yuan. Huang Jiamin's wife was very satisfied with this outcome. Fine, let's do that. Shan divided the 420 yuan between his uncle and mother. With the money settled, they sat down to eat. I calculated my total, 120 yuan from previous sales and 284 from today, totaling 700 yuan. Enough for a Mauser rifle. I'll buy it tomorrow. I rested in the room provided by the Huang family, waiting for the morning slaughter to collect my share. I had to take the pig heads and offal. Otherwise, Lu Yuji would scold me for being wasteful. Between my own catch and the family's gift, I was taking home 2 pig heads and 2 sets of offal. The Huang family still had plenty left for themselves. It was a generous gesture of gratitude. So you wake up. Breakfast is ready. Then we'll watch the pig slaughter. Huang Hai came to wake me early. I found the idea of watching a slaughter dull, but it was a village tradition. Everyone, young and old, gathered for the event. Coming, I said, dressing for breakfast. Huang Sui saw me and muttered lazybones under her breath. My heightened senses caught every word. I washed up and headed to the main room. Hungry? Want some hangover soup? The aunt asked kindly. The Huang family treated me like one of their own. I had already notified my family I might be late returning from the hunt. Dashin, Sui, take Suyu to get his share. Dashin, help him carry it home, the aunt ordered. Sui, bring a basin for our share. Hi, come to the fields with me. Huang Sui looked reluctant. It's only a few dozen jin. Don't be lazy, her mother chided. I know. She just didn't want to be seen with me and face the village gossip. As expected, villagers teased them about their handsome and capable partner. I chuckled, while Huang Sui glared at me. Huang Shan stayed silent, feeling guilty for the situation. Stop laughing, or you'll choke, she hissed. At the sight, I collected my 2 pig heads. I also received 2 heavy sets of offal. Huang Shan brought a cart to help transport the load. Let's go. If you can't carry yours, wait for Uncle, Huang Shan told his sister. Uncle Huang Jiamin would be there soon to collect his own share. Just go, she snapped. She wanted them gone. The villagers wouldn't stop praising my ability and her good eye. She had to admit, my earnings were impressive, but my teasing attitude was infuriating. Sui, your partner is leaving. Aren't you going to see him off? The village women teased Huang Sui relentlessly. She looked pained but helpless, shooting a final, frustrated glare at my retreating back before turning away. Huang Shan offered to push the cart, refusing to let me take over. Forget it. You're still young. Let me handle the heavy lifting. Just lead the way. Don't mind the village gossips, Huang Shan added. They're decent people, just bored. In the countryside, there's nothing else to talk about. I'm not that sensitive, Brother Huang. Our village women are exactly the same. They laughed and reached Sanshuiwan Village after a 20-li trek. The house was unlocked, suggesting my younger sister was home. Huzi the dog emerged first, followed by a small head peeking through the gate. Third brother, you're back? I introduced Huang Shan. The girl, Su Jing, hid behind me, intimidated by Huang Shan's towering 2-meter frame. What a cute kid, Huang Shan laughed, offering her a dime for candy. I tried to decline the money, but Huang Shan insisted. It's for the child, don't stop her. A dime was significant, enough for a decent amount of candy, as most children only spend a few cents at a time. Take it, but don't spend it all at once, I told her. Knowing how much she adored me, I let her accept the gift. Huang Shan helped move the load inside before heading home to process his own share of the offal. I brought the pork head and offal into the house, using a laundry tub to hold the haul. Su Jing was delighted, drooling at the sight of the meat. I ordered the excited Huzi to sit, then asked my sister for a knife. I began processing the uncleaned wild boar head and organs. While the boar had been gutted in the mountains, the organs were intact and clean. I tossed a piece of pig lung to Huzi to keep the dog occupied. I burned off the remaining bristles on the pig head, scraping the charred skin clean. Lacking flour, I used sand to scrub the pig intestines clean before rinsing them thoroughly. I spent the morning meticulously cleaning the heart, liver, head, and intestines. I began cooking, braising the heads and boiling the intestines, changing the water repeatedly to remove the odor. The heart and liver were added last, as they were easier to prepare. Finally, I cleaned the small intestines, boiled them with salt, and dried them as a treat for Huzi. Since small intestines are difficult to clean, I reserved them entirely for the dog. Once finished, I gave my sister 2 pig tongues to eat. I gave Huzi extra pig lung, hoping the dog would finish it before my mother, Lu Yuji, could claim it for the family. Wild boar meat and organs were notoriously gamey, especially after sitting in a barrel at the commune. By the time I finished, my parents and siblings had returned home. They were surprised and worried by the amount of meat, but I glossed over the details of the hunt. The family enjoyed a hearty lunch, though my sister was stuffed. By the way, my father mentioned, there was trouble in the village while you were gone. Su Jing chimed in. Lai Tu San tried to force educated youth Su to register for marriage, but the village chief stopped him. I was stunned by Lai Tu San's audacity. Su Bin tried to intervene, offering to pay off Su's debt. 80 yuan for a radio she allegedly broke, Su Jing added. It turned into a mess. Su accused them of framing her, but the police found no concrete evidence. The police ruled that while she owes the money, she cannot be forced into marriage. They warned Lai Tu San and Su Bin. They gave her 7 days to pay, or she faces labor reform. I was shocked. Labor reform for debt? It sounded like a scare tactic. I figured the police were likely bluffing to pressure them. What happened next? I asked, intrigued. Su publicly accused Su Bin of setting the trap, so now the whole village is looking at him differently. Su Bin looked furious, Su Jing noted. The police also came by to ask if you were home, she added. They said they'd return to question you. I realized Su must have mentioned me during her interrogation. She likely let slip her suspicions about the setup, leading the police to me. I wasn't worried. I only had suspicions, not proof. Don't worry, I said. I'm heading to town this afternoon. I plan to buy a gun and visit the police station myself to clear the air. I wanted to avoid the embarrassment of police showing up at my home. It would look bad for my father if the police were seen investigating his family. By volunteering information, I could control the narrative. Fine, go ahead, just be safe, my father said. My father remained as brief as ever. Wait, my mother interjected. How are things with Huang Sui? I realized my mother's gossip habit was back in full force. Focus on finding a wife for the eldest brother first, I retorted. If he doesn't marry, how can I? Su Sheng glared at me, But I, no longer intimidated, left to borrow a bicycle from the village chief. In the village, the eldest son was expected to marry first, as he was the pillar of the family. This was one reason his grandmother favored the eldest. At my home, there was no favoritism toward the eldest son. Mother Su was equally happy regardless of which son married first. I barged into Su Daqiang's home, asking to borrow his bicycle, assuming the commune wouldn't need it. Su Daqiang sighed, reminding me that the bike belonged to the collective. While technically available for use, my constant borrowing was starting to annoy others. Su's father rarely borrowed the factory bike, preferring to run to work unless absolutely necessary, to avoid such social friction. I asked bluntly if someone had been gossiping or acting jealous. I was straightforward. Since Su Daqiang was a clansman, I assumed they would naturally side with me. Su Daqiang confirmed that people had indeed been hinting at their annoyance, warning me that while occasional use was fine, frequent borrowing would invite trouble. Acknowledging the oversight, I excused myself, claiming I had urgent business. I pedaled away, mounting the bike with a swift, powerful kick. I doubted my own clan members would openly badmouth me. Even his eldest uncle, despite their poor relationship, valued face too much to cause a public scene. I suspected it was just the village loafers spreading rumors behind my back. Though aware of the potential trouble, I didn't dwell on it and soon arrived in the city. The state-run store sold rifles and Shanghai-brand air rifles, which were accurate enough for small birds at dozens of meters. They could kill rabbits at close range, but were ineffective beyond 25 meters. They were excellent for birds at 50 or 60 meters, but required close proximity for rabbits or pheasants. I wasn't interested in air rifles. I wanted a real rifle and needed to establish the market price. I spotted a Type 56 semi-automatic rifle priced at 1,200 yuan. When I asked about a Mauser rifle, the clerk was dismissive. The clerk, sensing I wasn't a serious buyer, quoted 800 yuan for a brand new Mauser and suggested an air rifle instead. Annoyed by the condescending suggestion, I countered that 800 was too expensive. The clerk insisted it was a pristine, factory-preserved collector's item, justifying the high price. I scoffed internally. The Mauser had been out of production for 26 years, making the brand new claim absurd. I left, unwilling to deal with an overpriced store. Outside, a man in a military overcoat with yellowed teeth and a cigarette approached me. The man asked if I was looking to buy hardware. I realized I had encountered a black market dealer. I confirmed I was hunting and asked if the man had stock. The man introduced himself as Huzi, a regular fixture outside the store. I knew these men colluded with store clerks to intercept customers, often overcharging or driving them away from the store to make a private sale. When Huzi asked for my budget, I turned to leave, unimpressed. I knew the game. The clerk drove me away with high prices, and Huzi would offer a deal, splitting the profit. It was a lucrative racket. Even a few successful interceptions a month beat a standard salary. As I walked away, Huzi panicked and offered 20 extra bullets to close the deal. Bullets were relatively cheap, and the Mauser was long obsolete, making the offer feasible. I asked about the condition of the rifle. Huzi claimed it was 90% new, sourced from a compound youth, and offered it for 500 yuan with 20 bullets. I complained that 20 bullets were stingy. Huzi pleaded for a profit margin. I feigned disinterest, citing the risks of buying black market goods. Huzi grabbed me, desperate to keep the sale alive. I knew they had plenty of room to negotiate, as they likely acquired the guns for very little. Huzi offered more bullets, framing it as necessary practice for a beginner. I settled on 500 yuan for the rifle and 4 boxes of bullets. I calculated the value. 4 boxes were worth roughly 20 yuan, a small cost for the dealer. Many people still held on to wartime weapons and ammunition, making them relatively easy to source. I pushed for more, noting that 500 yuan could buy a new one at the store. Huzi argued that his 90% new rifle was better maintained than the new store stock, eventually conceding to 5 boxes of bullets. I agreed. A well-maintained, used rifle was often superior to a dusty, 26-year-old new one. I insisted on inspecting the weapon first. Huzi agreed and directed me to a nearby path to retrieve the gun. I told him to hurry. I wasn't worried about being robbed. With my combat fighting skills, I was actually hoping for a chance to counterattack. Huzi returned shortly with a large man carrying a cloth-wrapped rifle. They stopped on the street, and Huzi signaled for the man to hand over the weapon. I unwrapped it, finding a Mauser in excellent condition, save for a few minor scratches. I disassembled it quickly, finding the firing pin and rifling in perfect, well-oiled condition. The lack of heavy gunpowder residue confirmed it had been well-maintained and rarely fired. Satisfied, I asked for the ammunition. Huzi produced 5 boxes of shiny, pristine bullets. I agreed to test the accuracy, and Huzi led them toward a nearby forest. They reached the woods a few minutes later. I followed on my bike, ready to take the rifle and test it. Huzi loaded 5 bullets into the Mauser rifle and handed it to me, warning me to be careful. I scanned the forest, spotted a woodpecker, aimed, and fired. The shot grazed the bird. It fell to the ground injured but alive. Ahem, your aim needs work, Huzi remarked. Ignoring him, I aimed at a large poplar tree about 100 meters away and pulled the trigger. Bang! The bullet struck the tree, sending leaves fluttering down, though it missed my intended mark. Good shooting. You're just getting the feel of it again, right? Huzi praised. I didn't bother correcting him about missing the center of the tree. The rifle is decent. Let me count the ammo so we can finish the trade. I had only agreed to meet because the location was near the city. Despite my combat skills, I remained cautious of being outnumbered or outgunned by the sellers. The sellers were equally wary, but they proved honest. They weren't interested in risking a lethal confrontation over a few hundred yuan. We value integrity, Huzi said, handing over 5 boxes of ammunition and letting me keep the 5 test rounds. I verified the ammo, then handed over 500 yuan. Transaction complete. Do you know where I can buy a second-hand bicycle? Huzi noted I still had at least 200 yuan left. Why not buy a new one? They're only around 200 yuan. I don't have a bicycle coupon, and buying one costs 50 yuan, not worth it. A 50 yuan coupon was actually a bargain. They often sold for 80. Try the repair shop on Huang Street. Old Manly sells second-hand bikes and provides the necessary paperwork for registration. These state-affiliated repair shops were authorized to issue transfer documents. I asked for the cloth used to wrap the rifle, and Huzi obliged. I packed the rifle, pocketed the ammo, and rode off. Busy, sir? I asked upon arriving at the shop. The old man glanced at my bike. Something wrong with your ride? Huzi sent me. I'm looking to buy a second-hand bicycle. The old man noticed the long, rifle-shaped bundle on my back. Oh. The old man stood up and led me into the back room. I have 3, 90%, 80%, and 60% new. They cost 180, 150, and 120 yuan, respectively. I dismissed the lady's bike and the dilapidated 60% model. Did you assemble these yourself, sir? The old man used his expertise to salvage parts from scrap, turning a profit on refurbished bikes. No coupons needed. Do you want a receipt? I realized I couldn't replicate such a perfect build for 150 yuan myself. It's still secondhand. I'm just a country kid. How about 120 yuan? 120 only gets you the 60% one. The 80% is 150, firm. I pressed. Come on, it's hard-earned money. 130, and I'll take it. The old man was surprised by the young man's persistence. Fine, for Huzi's sake, 130. But the paperwork costs another 5 yuan. I grumbled internally but accepted the extra fee. I paid 135 yuan, and the old man stamped the official document. These shops held gray market authority to issue registration documents for repaired or modified bikes. Because they were state-owned, they possessed official seals, a lucrative side business. I tested the bike, then headed to the police station to register it. Soon, I was riding back to Sanshuiwan Village, towing the other bike. I returned the borrowed bike to the village chief, who noticed my new purchase. You bought your own? Still mad at your uncle? I smiled, not at all. I didn't want to be a burden, so I earned some money and bought one. Good talker. 80% new. Exactly. No coupons, so I got it from the repair shop. This was a common practice, safer than buying black market coupons. Looks good. You're 19, time to find a partner. I brushed off the comment and went home, where my sister greeted me. She immediately noticed the bike was nicer than the village chief's. Smart girl. It's ours now. Cool, right? I hid the rifle and ammo in my room, leaving 65 yuan in my pocket. I took my sister to the fields to find our mother. Mother Su noticed the new bicycle immediately. Eldest uncle, Shengguer, approached, asking where I got it. I bought it for 135 yuan. It's for you to use when you get married. Shengguer was stunned. I handed him the registration papers to prove it was legitimate. Shengguer checked the serial numbers, realizing it was real. Wait, didn't you say you were buying a rifle? Why a bike? Buying a gun won't help you find a wife. I'm just trying to save you from this misery. Your younger brother has put a lot of thought into this. Cut the nonsense. Did the village party secretary tell you the villagers are complaining? Are they stopping you from borrowing the cart? I shook my head, thinking my brother was almost too sharp. Just go back. You're showing off that bike like a peacock. I flicked my sister's forehead and headed to the fields. Whatever, boring. I'm going back to cook something good, I said, rushing off with the little girl. Mother Su, still uneasy after seeing her eldest son talking to the third, approached and whispered, "What did your brother want?" "Nothing, mother. Just go about your business. Your son was just feeling flush and spent 135 yuan on a used bicycle to show off in the fields." "What?" Mother Su gasped, startling Shengguer. "My goodness, keep your voice down. Third brother, what's for dinner?" The little girl was still fixated on my promise of a good meal. "Go review your schoolwork. I'm going to stir-fry some pork intestines." I grabbed chili peppers from Huzi's yard, sliced them, and prepared the pre-boiled pork intestines. I stir-fried them with oil and chili. "Brother you, where's the gun? Let me see it." Huzi, having heard a mention of it earlier, had followed me over. "Wait until I finish cooking." I quickly finished the dish, then set a steamer with corn cakes over the pot to heat. "Come on, take a look." I pulled a Mauser rifle from under the bed. It was in 90% condition, missing only the bayonet. "Be careful, there are 3 bullets in the magazine. I'll take you hunting soon." Huzi grabbed it, eyes gleaming. He checked the magazine, cycled the bolt, and dry-fired it at the ceiling with a crisp click. "That sound is so crisp. This is used?" It was well maintained. "The rifling is smooth, and the bolt action is fluid." Huzi marveled. "I'm not even jealous of the bike, but a gun? You've got me itching to try it." I smiled, sympathizing with my childhood friend's envy. "Did you really strike it rich in Huang Village? Can we hunt wild boars now?" "Theoretically, yes. The Type 56 is too powerful for small game, better for bears or traps. The Mauser is more precise and better for hunting. But traps are rare. The gun is mostly for self-defense against large predators. Your bow is enough for pheasants and rabbits." They agreed to hunt tomorrow. Huzi left, but I kept the gun out, knowing my brother would want to see it anyway. I removed the bullets for safety. Suddenly, I remembered. Damn, I forgot to mention the educated youth, Xiuqin, at the police station. I realized the departments were different, and I'd likely been forgotten, so I just wandered home. I'll go back tomorrow. As I headed out, my eldest brother arrived, spotting the Mauser. "You bought a gun?" "A Mauser?" "Brand new. 90% new." His brother was a gun enthusiast and immediately started tinkering. Lu Yuji entered, though she was more interested in the bike. Soon, the fourth brother and their father arrived, and the little sister rushed to set the table. "Tell us, how much did it cost?" "What is this, an interrogation? You brat, you bought a bike and a gun without a word? This is a huge deal." I stayed silent. In this era, a bike was like a car, a massive status symbol, owned only by them and the village head. While urbanites valued the 3 rounds and 1 sound, rural families usually settled for a sewing machine. A bike was too flashy and risked unwanted attention from those who remembered the land reform era. In an era where poverty was glorious, being too high-profile could lead to accusations of bourgeois corruption. The bike was 135 yuan, 80% new. Here's the registration. The Mauser was 500 yuan, 90% new, with 5 boxes of ammo. I confessed. "You spendthrift. 635 yuan in one day? Are you trying to reach the heavens?" Lu Yuji was furious, especially about the bike. "It's done, we can't return it. Besides, having a bike is useful." Su's father spoke up, silencing Mother Su, who respected his authority in front of the children. "We'll tell everyone the bike belongs to my eldest brother to help him find a wife. I'll only use it to transport game to town." This eased Mother Su's concerns, as her eldest son's marriage was a major family worry. "Don't worry, I'll help find him a match. Let's eat." Su's father looked at his youngest son, impressed by his maturity and his ability to acquire such assets. After dinner, his brother and the fourth brother followed me into my room. Third brother, you said you had a match for me? Who is it? I recalled my brother's tragic marriage in my previous life. I do. She's beautiful and capable, but there's a catch. She's an adopted daughter caring for a disabled father. If you marry her, you take on that responsibility. I knew this from a gossip in my past life who mocked the girl for her useless kindness. The girl had sacrificed her youth to care for her father, only marrying late under pressure, leading to a life of hardship. I remembered her story clearly, as I had once considered her for my brother. Host, I age, 19 physique, 10 strength, 15 speed, 10 skills, fishing 4-3, basic archery 4-9, tracking 4-7, dog training 4-1, combat fighting 4-1, butchery 4-1 skill points. 83 I tried, but 80 plus points couldn't upgrade my archery. Is it evolving into a martial art? This is real life, not a wuxia novel. I didn't mind. I'd focus on leveling my marksmanship once I started hunting. Bullets were expensive, so I needed to ensure every shot counted. I drifted to sleep, thinking of my brother's future and the need to keep improving our lives. The next day, I met Huzi, who was eager to handle the gun. Bring the Tusher bow. You carry the gear. We're hunting in the back mountain of Huang Village. Why Huang Village? Are we meeting the Huang brothers? I shook my head. I need to visit the police station, and Huang Village is on the way back from town. It saves us a trip. I explained to Huzi why I was heading to the police station. Huzi was shocked, suspecting Su Bin was behind the scheme. I dismissed the concern, noting that Su Jiqing was not as fragile as she appeared. I predicted Su Bin would soon face the consequences of his arrogance. Upon reaching town, I left Huzi outside and entered the station. I spoke to the officers who had investigated Sanshuiwan, confirming Su Bin's involvement and his relationship to the victim. The officers were stunned by the audacity of Su Bin, who had orchestrated a trap to force a woman into marriage. I suggested that while my theory was speculative, the truth could be easily extracted by pressuring the conspirators. I warned that since the suspects had likely fabricated evidence like loan receipts, standard questioning would fail. I proposed targeting Hong Dakui, a local gambler and associate of Lai San, to whom Lai San owed significant debts. I reasoned that if Hong Dakui demanded repayment, Lai San would be forced to reveal the truth about his assets. Once Lai San lied to the police, they could detain him for obstruction, eventually breaking his resolve. The officers were impressed by my suggestion, realizing I was essentially teaching them how to conduct a sting operation. The officer concluded the interview, thanking me for my cooperation. The captain personally escorted me out, treating me with unexpected respect. Huzi rushed over, asking if everything was settled. I nodded, and as we walked away, the officers watched us, deep in thought. An officer asked Captain Wu if they should really follow the sting plan. Captain Wu feigned innocence, claiming he was merely conducting a routine inquiry at Lai San's home. The officers worried about dealing with Hong Dakui, a notorious local criminal with a large gang. Captain Wu scoffed, stating that if Hong Dakui resisted, he would simply arrest the entire group for illegal assembly. The officers laughed, finding the plan bold. In an era lacking surveillance and resources, police often struggled to gather evidence for common brawls. Suspects frequently fled before police could arrive, making their jobs difficult. Despite this, the police remained feared, as they held significant authority and access to heavy weaponry left over from the war. Captain Wu insisted on taking responsibility, ready to handle Hong Dakui personally. The team agreed, noting that the county had pressured them to resolve the case for Su Jiqing. Su Jiqing's family had clearly intervened, ensuring she was prioritized for university admission. With limited quotas, such placements were rarely accidental. Su Jiqing's success was clearly backed by influential connections. I had long suspected her privileged background, evidenced by her refined demeanor. Huzi asked about the delay. I replied that I had set a trap for Su Bin and Lai San. Huzi warned me that Su Jiqing was out of my league, advising me to look elsewhere. I realized my past infatuation with her had been foolish. I clarified I was only acting to stop Su Bin, not to pursue Su Xiaoya. I had lost interest after realizing how naive she was. I feared that a relationship with her would be a mistake, as I had no intention of marrying her in this era. Unlike the modern era, finding someone who left the village was nearly impossible without official systems. Educated youths typically returned home via university or by climbing the political ladder. Both paths were arduous and required significant effort and connections. As we reached Huang Village, local women teased me about my relationship with Huang Sui. Huzi was stunned to learn I was involved with her. Huang Sui was as beautiful as Su Jiqing, though with a different, more grounded charm. I told Huzi to stop gossiping. I explained the situation, leaving Huzi even more bewildered. Huzi was impressed by how quickly I had integrated into the Huang family. They arrived at the house, where Huang Sui opened the door. She let them in, looking curious. She guessed they were there to hunt with her brothers, and went to fetch them. Huang Shan and Huang Hai greeted them warmly, inviting them in. Huzi flattered the brothers, hoping to join their next hunt. His smooth talk pleased the brothers. They agreed to take them hunting, offering them a meal first. The two accepted. The brothers were happy to have me, whose archery skills guaranteed a successful hunt. They decided to set clear rules for the hunt to avoid future disputes. Huzi agreed, understanding the need for professional boundaries. They needed to agree on the distribution of the catch to ensure fairness for everyone involved. The Huang brothers are professional hunters who take turns working to support their family. They rarely hunt together, as one must always be laboring to ensure they have enough food. Agreed, we should clarify how to split the catch. Brother Huang, how do you suggest we divide it? I didn't intend a long-term partnership. I simply stopped by Huangjia Village on my way back from town to save time. Entering the Huang family's back mountain without a local guide risks being chased off by other hunters. It's like foreign fishing boats entering our waters. Chasing prey is one thing, but locals won't be polite unless you have a guide from the village. Here's the deal. What you find and kill is yours. If we find something together, we split it. That avoids disputes. You two are benefactors to our Huang family, so I don't want any friction over kills. Huzi interjected. Just split it between you two. I'm just tagging along. As long as I get a bowl of stew, I'm happy. Huang Shan and I exchanged a laugh. Fine. I will split the catch. You can help out. If we bag little, we'll stew it together. If we get a lot, you'll definitely take some home. Xiaohai is busy in the fields today, so I'll accompany you. With that, Huang Shan, I, and Huzi headed into the mountains. Huang Shan carried a homemade shotgun, a cannon, lethal within 50 meters, perfect for small game like rabbits and pheasants. Wait, Huzi, are you carrying a rifle? Huzi handed his bow to me and revealed the rifle on his back, which Huang Shan hadn't noticed before. Good eye, Brother Dashin. Brother, you just picked this up yesterday, a near-mint Mauser rifle. Take a look. Huzi handed it over. Being childhood friends, he trusted my gear with me, unlike he would with a stranger. Huang Shan, a hunter who loved firearms, eagerly took the rifle, checked the magazine, and cycled the bolt. It's in great shape. Must have cost a fortune, right? Huzi stayed silent, knowing better than to discuss the price. Not too bad, standard price. The seller even threw in 5 boxes of ammo, I replied. My answer gave Huang Shan enough of a hint to estimate the cost. Nice piece. Keep it safe. For small game, our usual gear is plenty. Huang Shan was right, but I needed to practice to trigger my system skill. Shooting small game like pheasants would just destroy the meat and waste expensive ammo. Brother Huang, did Uncle Duokai ever catch that lone wolf he mentioned? I asked, signaling my interest in hunting it. Huang Shan considered it. With my rifle and archery, plus 3 men, they could handle a lone wolf as long as they avoided a full pack. Wolf meat is sour, but the pelt is valuable, worth more than dog fur. You want to hunt it? Fine, let's head north. Stay alert. Huang Shan released his 4 hunting dogs, including Debeo, giving them the confidence to face a small group of wolves. With a shotgun, a rifle, and my expert archery, they felt well prepared. Even Huzi felt no fear as they headed north. Along the way, I occasionally fired my bow, bagging squirrels, pheasants, and a mountain cat. The mountain cat, resembling a tabby but larger with a lion-like mane, weighs up to 20 pounds and hunts birds, snakes, and rodents. They are predators that don't hesitate to raid domestic chicken coops. They are rare and eventually became protected animals. I had spotted it earlier. They are agile and sharp-nosed, but because they often hunt near human homes, They aren't immediately terrified of people. This gave me the perfect opening to land a shot. Fat cat. The meat's a bit sour, like cat meat, but it's a decent catch. Doesn't matter. If we don't eat it, the dogs will. A win is a win. They smiled and continued. Aside from me, the others hadn't managed to bag anything yet. Brother, you look? Is that an eagle? Huzi pointed to the sky. My sharp eyes tracked the eagle, but it was over 100 meters up, out of effective range for my bow. This was the perfect chance to practice with the rifle. Even if the eagle wasn't much for eating, no one would question him shooting it. Hand me the rifle, I said, loading it. Why bother? It's not much meat, and it's a waste of ammo. I knew the cost, but I needed to grind my marksmanship skill. I just want to test the rifle. I haven't fired it since I bought it, and I'm itching to try it. Huang Shan understood. Any hunter would feel the same. All right, but it's a moving target. Good luck. They watched as I raised the rifle. The eagle, seemingly experienced with hunters, sensed the danger the moment the barrel rose and veered away. Damn, this bird's been shot at before. It's heading east. It flew slowly, almost taunting them. The eagle was cunning. It flew off when I aimed and circled back when I lowered the gun. I realized the system required intent and successful execution to trigger a skill. Simply practicing on fixed targets wasn't enough. I had to land shots on real, challenging targets to force the system to generate the skill. It's mocking us. We have no other targets. Let's chase it. Huang Shan agreed, though he doubted I could hit such a taunting, maneuvering target. The trio chased the eagle 3 miles east until they reached a dead end. So you stop. There's a cliff ahead, Huzi warned. I looked up. We were at the base of a 20-meter-high cliff with no path upward. It's a dead end, Huang Shan noted. To get up, we'd have to go dozens of miles east to find a slope. Brother, you look? Is that a nest up there? Huzi pointed. I spotted a nest made of dry branches perched on the cliff face. Could that be the eagle's home? Huang Shan and Huzi exchanged looks, realizing I was determined to raid the bird's nest. So you let it go? It's just an eagle. Let's keep looking for the lone wolf, Huang Shan urged. I was stubborn. Having chased it for 3 miles, I felt too invested to quit now. I couldn't accept leaving empty-handed after such a long pursuit. Don't worry, Huang Gu. I'll go up and take a look. I know what I'm doing. I approached the cliff. It wasn't vertical, and I trusted the system to help me master climbing. Huang Shan, worried for my safety, grabbed me. It's too dangerous. If you slip, you're done for. I lied, claiming I knew how to climb. Huang Shan, familiar with local herb gatherers, reluctantly accepted this. Don't lie to me. I can't answer to your parents if something happens. I promise, if it's too hard, I'll come right back down. I pushed past them, grabbed some dirt for grip, and leaped onto a rock protrusion. After climbing 3 meters, the system notification chimed, confirming the skill. My skill list updated, showing rock climbing LV1. I immediately spent 37 skill points to upgrade rock climbing to LV7. The upgrade boosted my stats. Endurance, strength, and physique all increased. I realized high-level climbing required significant arm strength and overall physical conditioning. It was a worthy investment, even if it delayed my archery upgrade. So you tired? Come down if you can't make it. They called from below. They weren't overly worried since I was only 3 meters up. I'm fine, don't worry. I felt my hands grow stronger as the knowledge of climbing techniques flooded my mind. I ascended rapidly, reaching the nest in moments. Inside the nest, I found several chicks, explaining why the eagle had lingered. I carefully placed the chicks into my pockets and began my descent. Descending was usually harder, but with rock climbing LV7, it was effortless. Huang Shan and Huzi watched in awe as I climbed down safely. That was incredible, brother you. Enough talk. Take the bag, I replied. I transferred the chicks into the small bag Huzi had been carrying. The chicks were young, their feathers just fully grown, and they couldn't fly yet. Why keep them? Wild eagles are impossible to train, Huang Shan cautioned. I'm just playing around. Let's keep hunting, I said, dismissing the concern. Soon, Debeo tracked new prey. I let Huang Shan take the lead. Huang Shan returned triumphantly with a 5-pound wild rabbit. For a hunter, catching 1 rabbit was a successful day. My usual hauls were the exception. Suddenly, I caught a familiar scent. A jackal. Follow me. I found a jackal's trail. The hunting dogs, sensing the predator, kept their distance, leaving the tracking to me. Are you sure? We didn't see anything, Huang Shan asked skeptically. Despite his doubts, he followed me. I focused on the scent, distinguishing the fresh trail from the old. After 2 miles, I signaled them to stop. Quiet. Look over there. A jackal was crouched, stalking a pheasant. Brother you, let me take the shot, Huzi whispered. Usually, I would agree, having promised to let Huzi shoot. But I needed this specific kill to trigger the marksmanship skill. I knew the system required a challenging, high-stakes target to grant the skill. Not this time. I need this one, but I'll make sure you get your turn later. I took the rifle and crept closer. I stopped at 60 meters, waiting for the jackal to move. The jackal lunged, snapping the pheasant's neck instantly. As the jackal turned to eat, I fired. I had timed the shot perfectly to ensure a clean hit. The bullet struck the jackal's head, killing it instantly. The force of the shot sent the jackal flying, its head shattered. My first real shot was a success, proving my understanding of the basics. The system confirmed the acquisition of marksmanship LV1. I realized that mastering a skill requires both conscious intent and practical application, ideally landing hits on targets, to trigger the system. System, max out marksmanship. I checked my updated stats. Age 19, physique 15, strength 25, speed 10, stamina 20. Skills, fishing LV3, basic archery LV9, tracking LV7, dog training LV1, combat fighting LV1, butchery LV1, rock climbing LV7, marksmanship LV8. Skill points, 0. I was shocked. Despite having over 50 points, marksmanship was incredibly costly to upgrade, far more demanding than rock climbing. Brother you, your aim is incredible. Have you been practicing in secret? Huzi felt slighted, but I handed him the rifle, promising him the next shot to appease him. Relieved to end Huzi's pouting, I handed over the rifle and joined Huang Shan by the dead jackal. Impressive headshot, Suyu. I knew you were good with a bow, but your marksmanship is top tier. To avoid suspicion for future shooting, I needed a plausible excuse. My father was a veteran who taught me the basics as a kid. I've got a natural feel for it, though I haven't touched a rifle in years since my militia days. In rural areas, militia members often had early access to firearms, making my story believable. It must be your father's influence. Truly impressive. Enough with the flattery, Huzi interrupted. Let's find another target. I'm itching to shoot. I and Huang Shan chuckled, quickly gutting the jackal and feeding the remains to the hounds. Huang Shan insisted on carrying the 40-pound jackal himself, dismissing the weight as trivial for his stature. I agreed, picking up my bow to follow Huzi, who was determined to prove his own hunting prowess. Huzi felt pressure to perform. His grandfather was a hunter and his father a militiaman, yet I had outshone him. He was desperate to prove his worth. I, having completed my own objectives, was happy to let Huzi lead the search. Huzi, don't go that way. Follow me. Relying on my keen sense of smell, I tracked a scent I had picked up earlier. Trusting my tracking skills, the others followed without question. Look, a sheep. Doesn't look wild, though. Huang Shan identified it as a stray fine-wool sheep from a neighboring village's flock, scattered by wolves years ago. Fine-wool sheep. The sheep was thick-coated and formidable, with curved horns capable of serious damage. Huzi, it's yours. I pointed out the target 100 meters away, readying my bow to provide backup. With my strength now at 25, I could easily draw my two-shur bow to its limit. At 100 meters, the bow had more than enough power to take down the sheep. All right, I'll give it a shot, Huzi said, though he was nervous. I didn't care if Huzi missed. I prioritized keeping my companion's morale high over the kill itself. Steady your breathing, align the sights, don't rush, I whispered as Huzi aimed. The sheep, being domesticated, lacked the sharp instincts of a truly wild animal, remaining oblivious to the hunters. A gunshot rang out, followed immediately by the whistle of my arrow. My LV9 archery allowed for rapid-fire shots, though the 240-pound draw weight of the two-shur bow made repeated firing physically taxing. 2 shots were enough. I only fired the second as a precaution. They approached the fallen sheep, I careful not to claim credit for the kill. Huang Shan reached the target first, clearing a path through the brush. Did I get it, or did you, brother you? Huang Shan examined the carcass. Not bad for a first-timer, Huzi. You hit the hind leg. Suyu's arrow finished it. Huzi's bullet had wounded the leg, while my arrows had pierced the neck and chest. My precision strike to the internal organs had been the lethal blow. The sheep was dying quickly. It was a long shot, 50 meters further than your last one. You did well, I encouraged. Shan added his own words of comfort. I'm not a child. I'm satisfied with the hit. Huzi replied, his ego intact. There was no resentment. Huzi knew I was a friend. Good mindset. I'll gut it. This sheep must weigh over 100 pounds. It was indeed a heavy, thick-coated animal. Are there more? Huzi asked. Shan shook his head, noting that such strays were rare and likely solitary. Let's take it back and stew some for dinner, Huzi suggested. Shan laughed, advising they use hawthorn to mask the strong gamey flavor. Between the sheep, the jackal, and the small game, we've had a good haul. Should we head back? It was mid-afternoon, and they were hungry. Shan suggested returning, as tracking further would be exhausting. I and Huzi agreed. We had enjoyed our shooting and were satisfied with the day's success. I offered to carry the heavy sheep, but Shan insisted on taking it himself. Unaware of my massive strength increase, Shan took the heavier load to be helpful. I carried the jackal and pheasants instead. Huzi took the rabbits and other small game as they began their trek home. They moved slowly, stopping occasionally to let Shan rest under the weight of the sheep. I stopped frequently to track prey. By the time we reached the foot of the mountain, I had bagged a rabbit, a pheasant, and a 70 to 80-pound Siberian roe deer. Carrying the heavy load myself, I arrived at Huang Village. Well, Shan, struck it rich? A village woman asked. With spring sowing finished, many women were idle and hanging about the village. Hardly. My brother-in-law caught these. I'm just helping carry them, Shan replied, noting the woman recognized me. It's all in the family anyway. Isn't he your brother-in-law? What's the difference? She teased. Huzi stifled a laugh while I nodded awkwardly, resolving to avoid Huang Village in the future to escape the gossip. Brother, you're back? Suyu, Huzi, greeted Sui. Shan tapped her forehead, scolding. Show some respect. Call them Brother Yu and Brother Huzi. Sui ran off with a playful tongue poke. I felt a sudden, restless stir of youthful desire, quickly shaking it off. I pushed the fleeting, inappropriate thoughts aside. I followed Huzi into the Huang home, letting Huzi handle the explanations. My haul included a wildcat, 3 pheasants, a rabbit, 5 squirrels, a wolf, and a Siberian roe deer. Shan had only managed a single 5-pound rabbit, half the size of mine. Sui realized her brother's meager contribution compared to my bounty. She turned to me, cooing, Brother Yu, you're amazing. Shall I stew some pheasant for you tonight? We have mountain mushrooms. It's a perfect match. Her sudden sweetness left me, Huzi, and even Shan stunned. I quickly realized it was a beauty trap to score some chicken. I smirked and replied, sure. Call me good brother, and I'll let you have the rabbit too. My lecherous, mocking tone made Sui's skin crawl. Shameless. Get lost. She stormed off in a huff, leaving the men laughing at the successful counter-tease. I was just joking, Sui. I'll still let you have some. I called out, to which she retorted, drop dead. Eat it yourself. Embarrassed and angry, she slammed her door shut, ignoring them entirely. Shan asked if they wanted to stay or head home. I signaled we were leaving. We're heading back. It's a long walk, and I don't want to sleep in your bed, I joked. Huzi silently agreed. Seeing their camaraderie, Shan felt a pang of envy, lacking such close friends himself. I listed the remaining haul: wildcat, pheasants, rabbit, squirrels, wolf, Siberian roe deer, and a fine wool sheep. Shan, do you want half the sheep's tail for oil? I offered. Sheep tail fat is pungent, but highly prized for cooking oil in these resource-scarce times. Though considered too gamey by some, it was a valuable source of fat. Despite Shan's polite refusal, I insisted, cutting off a large chunk for him. Keep this pheasant for Sui. Tell her I was just teasing, I added. Shan continued to wave him off, feeling guilty. She's just greedy. I'll stew the rabbit. I can't take the pheasant. Take it, or my mother will beat me for bringing too much home, I insisted. They divided the load. Huzi took the wolf, pheasants, rabbit, squirrels, and cat, while I took the heavy deer and sheep. The deer weighed 80 pounds, and the sheep nearly 100. Huzi, at 18, could handle the 60-pound load, provided they took breaks. Shan provided a sack to secure the smaller game for Huzi. They strapped the gear to Huzi's back, ensuring it wouldn't slip. I firmly left the pheasant behind for Shan. I reiterated that it was for Sui's dinner. Goodbye, Sui. See you later. I shouted loudly before sprinting off with the heavy carcasses. Though she didn't emerge, my shout was intended for the neighbors to hear, a whim I couldn't fully explain. After 2 miles, a breathless Huzi asked if I was tired. We have 20 miles to go. If you're tired now, we'll never make it, I replied. Huzi marveled at how I carried nearly 200 pounds without breaking a sweat. I was taller and stronger, but the weight was still immense. We'll rest 10 minutes every 5 miles. We'll be home by 7, I planned. Huzi gritted his teeth and pressed on, determined to keep up. At the 5-mile mark, Huzi collapsed. I shared my water, which Huzi downed in one go. No watch, no flashlight. We have to move before it gets dark, I urged. I helped Huzi with his load and resumed my steady pace. They trekked the 20 miles, arriving shortly after dark. It was a fast trip, having left the village by 5:30 p.m. We'll split the rest tomorrow. Take this pheasant home for dinner. I'm keeping the other pheasant and the rabbit, I decided. With 1 pheasant given to Sui and 1 to Huzi, I kept the final pheasant and rabbit for my own family. I wanted to ensure a good meal after a long day. Huzi headed home, and I called my brother to help haul the remaining game inside. It's dark, and Mom and Dad are back. Take a pheasant and rabbit to stew. Look at our little sister. She's drooling. I laughed. His little sister was staring intently at the meat, clearly hungry. Why did you catch so much? No wonder you're back so late. Shinguer assumed they were late due to the heavy load, unaware they had visited Huang Village. I kept quiet. Brother, come to town with me tomorrow. We'll sell the sheep and roe deer, then visit the supply and marketing cooperative to buy gifts and arrange a match for you in the neighboring village. Shinguer was excited but feigned indifference. I saw right through him. In the countryside, men his age were often already fathers. Go get the chickens and rabbits ready. I skinned 5 huigozi, bringing my total to 10. I skinned the wolf while my father helped, and Lao Si assisted his brother with dinner. Dad, I cut off the sheep tail. You can render it into oil tonight. Su father asked, where's the other half? Did you give it to Huzi? Ah, yes, I did. I played along to avoid prying questions. The next day, the trio took a cart to the county town and called Manager Fan to the state-run restaurant. I'll take the roe deer, but the fine wool sheep isn't game meat, and wolf meat is worthless. If it were a dole, I'd pay hundreds for its medicinal value. Wolf meat has no value. The restaurant bought the 75-gene roe deer for 8 mao per gene, slightly more than pork. In this era, fat was prized. The lean roe deer yielded little oil. 8 mao was a fair price, neither cheap nor expensive. I'm giving you a good price. You might get more from a connoisseur, but most people find it pricey. It's not exactly rare. Anyone with money here has eaten roe deer. Manager Fan explained to ensure I didn't feel cheated. Since locals were familiar with the meat, 8 mao was the market ceiling. I trust you, Manager Fan. 8 mao it is. You're a straightforward lad. Fan paid 60 yuan for the 75-gene haul. We'll be off then. I, Huzi, and Shinguer headed to the marketplace to sell the sheep and wolf meat. Huzi, do you need anything? I'll buy it for you, though I can't share the cash today. Huzi declined, understanding the arrangement. They had agreed that I and Shan would split the spoils, while Huzi was just along for the ride and a meal. A woman bought a gene of the fine wool sheep meat at 7 mao. The sheep meat sold out quickly. Is that dog or wolf meat? A man asked. It's wolf, sir. You know your stuff. The man nodded, satisfied by my honesty. I'll take the remaining 20 gene of wolf meat for 5 yuan. It was a low price, but I accepted to build rapport. The man paid and left with the meat. Keep the last 5 gene of mutton. We're off to handle business. I bought supplies at the supply and marketing cooperative before heading out. I bought my brother a new outfit to ensure he looked his best for the match. Where are we going? Huzi asked. To Lijiawa to find a wife for my brother. Directly? Isn't that a bit bold? I explained they would ask the village party secretary to facilitate the match. After exchanging grain coupons at the grain bureau, they headed to Lijiawa. A woman answered the door at the village party secretary's home. We're from Sanshuiwan, looking for the secretary. She let them in, and I presented gifts of alcohol, cigarettes, and pastries. I can't accept these, the secretary said. What do you need? We're here for my brother. Is Xiuqin a relative of yours? Would she be a good match for him? The secretary understood. Xiuqin was a good girl, but her situation was difficult. Where are your parents? The secretary asked. He needed to ensure the family was serious. My father works at the kiln. We're here to pave the way for him to visit later. The secretary explained Xiuqin's burden. She cared for her disabled father, which had delayed her marriage. If your brother wants her, he must accept that she won't abandon her father. We know, and we're willing to support them both. Shenggur, aware his own reputation made finding a bride difficult, agreed immediately. Xiuqin was a rare gem, beautiful and virtuous, despite her hardship. It was a blessing for Shenggur if he could commit. His past as a troublemaker made him a hard sell, so this was a golden opportunity. I knew my brother's prospects were otherwise slim. In these times, taking on an extra mouth to feed was a massive commitment. The secretary was surprised by the brother's willingness. Shall I speak to them first, or will you come with me? Please, go ahead and break the ice, I said, as my brother grew shy. Let's do this. I'll speak to Xiuqin's foster father to arrange a meeting. If you two hit it off, you can bring your family over to finalize things. How does that sound? The village party secretary wasn't a professional matchmaker. He was straightforward and had no ulterior motives. Sounds good. We'll follow your lead. Shenggur was too flustered to speak, so I answered for him. As the secretary prepared to leave for Li's house, I grabbed a few pounds of pastries from my cart for him to take along. The secretary accepted the gift without pretense, as it was a standard courtesy for the errand. Xiuqin's father was disabled and struggling with medical bills. Bringing a gift wasn't about showing off. It was about showing sincerity regarding their intent to care for the elderly. I knew I had to handle this properly. Given my brother's reputation, any slip-up would make it impossible to convince the family that Shenggur could support them. The secretary's wife greeted them with warm hospitality, serving bowls of brown sugar water despite my protests. In these times, brown sugar water was a high-end treat. Tea leaves were rationed and far too expensive for most. Even high-earning city workers usually only drank tea dust. Shortly after, a neighbor woman rushed in. Quick! Someone is at Xiuqin's house demanding debt repayment, and it's about to turn violent. Both I and my brother were stunned. They were willing to support an elderly man, but inheriting a debt was a different matter. Still, they had to investigate. The group hurried to Li's house. Brother, what if she's really in deep debt? Shenggur whispered. I had promised him a good match, but this was an unexpected complication. It was a tricky situation. Let's see the scale of it. A small amount is fine, but if it's huge, we aren't walking into a trap. They arrived to hear the creditor shouting. Look at this black and white proof. When your leg was hurt, I lent you money. The terms were clear. 3 years, usurious interest. You owe 150, but I'll settle for 200. That's fair. I recognized the predatory usury terminology immediately. Dalong, he's your own uncle. Are you trying to kill him? The secretary demanded. Dalong scoffed. I'm just securing my rights while he's still alive. You brought thugs to harass your own kin? Have you no shame? The secretary scolded. Dalong remained unmoved, demanding the house as collateral. If he dies, the house belongs to me. Secretary, don't side with outsiders. If he dies, I don't want the house falling into the hands of strangers. The secretary hesitated, looking toward the house. Old man Li hobbled out and told his daughter, Xiuqin, give him the deed. Father, no. He'll gamble it away, and we'll have nowhere to live. Neighbors watched, angry but hesitant to intervene. Xiuqin, give it to him. If you do, I'm debt-free. Dalong, if you harass her after this, I'll haunt you from the grave. Dalong grinned and nodded eagerly. The house wasn't worth much, but the land in the village center was valuable. I'm sorry, Xiuqin. I failed you, the old man lamented. Xiuqin reluctantly went to get the deed, unable to defy her father. You need to marry, and this house is your only dowry, but now. The old man wept. I'll live in a shack. I'll survive. No. Father, I won't marry. I'll stay and care for you. The two wept, a heartbreaking scene that left the neighbors pitying them but doing nothing to help. Stop the drama. I'm a man of my word. I won't kick you out while you're alive, Dalong said, snatching the deed. He turned to leave. Shengguer, his temper flaring, prepared to intervene. I grabbed his arm to stop him. Shengguer was protective of Xiuqin, but I knew the debt was the real threat. If not cleared, it would haunt her forever. I suspected this debt was the root of her future misery. Wait, I called out, stopping Dalong. If you take the house, put it in writing. If you sell it later and they're homeless, the village's reputation will be ruined. We won't let them freeze to death. The villagers realized the implication. A homeless, starving family would reflect poorly on the entire village's collective honor. In this era, collective reputation was everything. He's right, the villagers murmured. We can't have them dying on our watch. Yes, get it in writing. The pressure mounted. The villagers blocked Dalong's path. Who are you to interfere? Dalong sneered, moving to shove me. Shengguer stepped in, gripping Dalong's wrist and twisting it until he shrieked. Shengguer was brawny and unafraid of Dalong's lackeys. You dare touch my brother? Shengguer growled. His raw, predatory intensity caused everyone to recoil. The sheer force of his presence made the thugs back away, terrified. Is this Shengguer? Someone in the trio recognized Su Sheng by reputation. Oh, someone knows me? How do you want to handle this, kid? Su Sheng slapped Li Dalong's face with each word, a gesture of pure humiliation. I pulled my brother back, whispering that we were here to propose, not to show off his terrifying, bride-scaring temper. Anyone would be scared to death by him. Cough, my mistake. Please, have mercy, I'll apologize and compensate. Seeing the situation was under control, I stopped my brother to avoid further public escalation. Brother, I didn't know who you were. I apologize. Li Dalong was a gambler and a regular at the brothels, but he lacked the stomach for real violence. Intimidated by Su Sheng's aura, which rivaled the local toughs, he dared not resist. Forget the apology. Let's talk fairness. Your uncle's house is worth at least 300. You want to seize it over in 9 out 13 in loan? Think that's fair. You've held the debt for 3 years. Pay back 200, but the house is worth 300. What about the difference? I was calculating the value of the central residential land, which was far more valuable than the dilapidated adobe structure itself. Prime village land was scarce and highly sought after. Its central location was its true value. Realizing I was backing Li Xiuqin, Li Dalong had no choice but to yield. What do you suggest? Pay 50 as the difference, and the other 50 covers your uncle's rent. We'll sign a contract. The house stays with him until he passes. Li Dalong was reluctant to lose more money, but under pressure from his cronies and fear of Su Sheng, he agreed. With the village party secretary and elders as witnesses, the agreement was signed and notarized in triplicate. Young man, thank you for your help. Li Xiuqin looked at me with gratitude, but I quickly looked away, awkward about my future sister-in-law. I signaled the village party secretary. The secretary nodded and invited everyone inside to get acquainted. Old man Li, known as Li Daniu, had spent his life working for others, only to end up with nothing. Inside, the secretary explained that the group was there to propose marriage for Su Sheng. Li Xiuqin blushed and lowered her head. Daniu, they know your situation and are willing to support you. What do you think? Li Daniu, an honest farmer, asked. If Xiuqin is willing, I have no objections. But why would you want to take on an old man like me? It was a reasonable question. He wondered if they were crazy. I knew we needed time to build trust. Uncle Daniu, my brother is a bit blunt. He's 24, a reformed man who spent his youth fighting but has settled down. And Xiuqin is 26. Yes. As they say, a woman 3 years older is like holding gold. My brother will treat her well. Think it over, and we'll return for your answer. We'll provide everything a proper wedding requires. Impressed by my eloquence and the brother's sincerity, Li Daniu agreed to consider it. Uncle, please accept these snacks as a small token. After some polite insistence, they left the gifts and departed with the village head. Uncle, thank you for your help. Please keep an eye on things for us. We'll wait for your word. Please let us know when you have an answer. I left the gifts and signaled for the others to leave. You're too kind, but I can't take these until the matter is settled. Please, take them as a token of our appreciation regardless of the outcome. They left the village head behind and headed home. Su Sheng was lost in thought. Thinking about your bride? Su Sheng shook his head. I feel like I'm taking advantage of them. Is this right? I rolled my eyes at my brother's hesitation. Don't overthink it. Just make sure you treat her well once you're married. Xiuqin nodded, then asked about their finances. Don't worry about the money. Just wait for the good news. I grabbed my gun and went to find Huzi. After selling the game, a roe deer, a sheep, and a wolf, and deducting expenses, I had about 150 yuan left. Huzi and I headed out. Any luck in the mountains today? We'll check the spot where we found the badger last time. They reached the familiar path quickly. They searched the area, but found nothing. Maybe there was only one. Badgers aren't solitary. Let's check the forest where the soil is softer. Using my tracking skill, I soon located a burrow entrance. They have multiple exits. We'll block the others and smoke it out. They found 3 holes, blocked 2, and prepared to smoke the third. Click. I loaded my gun. At this range, shooting was the most efficient way to handle a large group of badgers. I heard movement others couldn't. I aimed at the burrow entrance. As a badger bolted, I fired. Bang! The shots rang out in quick succession. My marksmanship, for 8, was nearly superhuman. I didn't need to aim carefully. I simply moved the barrel and pulled the trigger. With my speed and precision, I was only 1 level away from the human limit. To prevent the carcasses from blocking the burrow, I intentionally let the badgers run a few steps before firing. Damn it, Yuji, help. Some badgers are escaping the fire. Huzi shouted. Hearing the gunfire, some badgers risked the flames to flee toward Huzi's side. I arrived to find Huzi struggling against a badger. These creatures were vicious, known for biting heels. I quickly dispatched 3 more with headshots. Huzi was stunned by my marksmanship. I told him to stop gawking and finish clearing the burrow. We bagged 9 badgers in total, ranging from 10 to 30 pounds. I had wiped out the entire clan. How do we carry all these back? 9 badgers were cumbersome to transport. They tied the badgers together with thorny vines. I told Huzi to keep 3 as his share. Huzi agreed, opting for 3 medium-sized ones for his family's consumption. I didn't mind the wasted bullets. Avoiding the badger's painful bites was worth the cost. I checked my system. Physique 15, Strength 25, Speed 10, Stamina 20. Skills included fishing, 4-3, archery, 4-9, tracking, 4+7, dog training, 4-1, combat, 4-1, butchery, 4-1, rock climbing, 4-7, and marksmanship, 4-8. Skill points, 30. The 9 badgers earned me 30 points. I decided to save them rather than upgrade my marksmanship further for now. Back home, I and Shenggur brought the haul into the yard. Sujin and Su Jing were excited. I promised them meat for dinner. I wanted to improve my family's nutrition, especially my sister's, rather than selling everything for grain. I ordered Su Jin to clean the offal for Huzi. Su Jin protested. Why do I have to do all the chores? I had assigned the young eagle to Su Jin, as she was old enough to handle the responsibility. Do you want to eat meat tonight or not? Su Jin fell silent. The offal had to be cleaned in the slop bucket since it smelled too strong for the wash basins. Su Jing was too young for the task, and Shenggur was busy skinning the badgers. I told my eldest brother to skin them all, keep 1 big one for dinner, and prepare the rest for sale. Shenggur agreed. I forced Su Jin to feed the young eagle, using my authority as the 3rd brother to ensure compliance. I instructed Su Jing to boil the edible offal for the dog and the eagle. I began cooking, with Su Jin tending the fire. The family worked together. The eldest brother skinned the pelts, Su Jin prepped the dog food, and Su Jing managed the stove. By dusk, the parents returned. Su father noted the neighbors were already gossiping about the smell of meat. 3rd brother, don't eat meat so often. It makes the neighbors jealous, Su father warned. I wasn't surprised by this caution. Father, we aren't stealing. Why should we live in poverty just to avoid envy? If they're jealous, let them hunt themselves. I won't let my sister suffer from malnutrition just to keep up appearances. Don't worry about what outsiders say. Let's just focus on our own lives. Mother Su agreed. My son is right. We aren't doing anything wrong. Su father sighed and dropped the subject. He rarely interfered, and seeing his wife side with me, he chose to remain silent. Mother suggested keeping some of the badger fat before selling the meat to the restaurant. I agreed. The restaurant wouldn't miss a bit of fat. Just be careful to hide it so it doesn't look obvious, I cautioned. It was important to maintain their reputation while selling the meat. Mother assured me she knew how to trim it discreetly. Dinner was served with mixed flour pancakes. Despite mother's grumbling about my spending, the family enjoyed the meal. I made sure my sister got a large portion. I brought up the matchmaking for my eldest brother. I advised my father to be generous with the bridal gift to ensure the marriage went smoothly. Given my brother's poor reputation, a higher bridal gift would prevent complications. The parents began discussing the details with Shanggur. Before leaving, I slipped my mother 50 yuan for the wedding expenses, including candy and the banquet. I couldn't give it directly to my father, who would feel humiliated by his own inability to provide. His father had never saved any of his own wages, and I wanted to spare his pride. I understand, his mother said. She accepted the money, fully aware of its true purpose. I had planned to head to the county town with Huzi the next day to sell the badger and 10 squirrel pelts. However, events took an unexpected turn. The town police, led by the brigade captain, arrested Lai Tu San and his accomplices. Even Ma Sanyuan couldn't protect them, and he had no intention of saving Lai Tu San. Lai Tu San confessed everything before even reaching the station. Police split into two groups, one to process him, the other to arrest Su Bin and Sanshuiwan. Secrets never stay hidden in a village, especially when the source is obvious. Rumors spread that educated youth Su Jiqing only exposed Su Bin's scheme because she had been tipped off by an expert. Su Bin's parents investigated and concluded that I was the one behind the tip-off. Su Bin was arrested at dusk. His parents arrived at my home at dawn to cause a scene. My family was unaware of the night's events, as the police arrived quietly and the village slept early. The village party secretary was likely the only one informed. I was awakened by my aunt screaming. She was blocking the door, preventing my father from leaving. Disturbed by the vitriol, I quickly dressed. Third brother, don't go out, Su Jin warned. Dad says to stay hidden to avoid escalating aunt's tantrum. I asked, what's that madwoman shouting about? Su Jin explained the situation to his brother. I realized Su Jiqing must have leaked the information. Su Jiqing likely discussed my warnings with a friend. After realizing I was right, she exposed Su Bin's scheme when he tried to force her to register their marriage. Su Bin, realizing his trap had failed, retreated but remained bitter over losing both the girl and his 80 yuan radio. Su Jiqing had likely shared the secret without caution, making it inevitable that others would find out. It was no surprise the news leaked. While the police wouldn't admit to entrapment, the arrest served as the perfect trigger for Su Bin's mother to vent her rage. Second brother, move aside. Let that brat come out. I want to ask him what he's done. Is he still part of the Su family? Helping outsiders arrest his own cousin. I thought the fight between Lai Tu San and me was just kids playing. But now I see you've raised a son who would betray his own blood for a woman. It was rare for the eldest uncle to confront them so aggressively, accusing me of framing his cousin over a woman. To those unaware of the truth, it looked like I was maliciously framing Su Bin, a narrative that sounded terrible regardless of the facts. Third uncle, third aunt, and Yuan arrived at the scene. Third uncle held Su Fugue back to prevent a physical fight. Third brother, stop taking sides, the eldest uncle roared. Don't forget who stood up for you when you were bullied before your brother joined the army. Have you grown wings now? Third uncle remained silent, but didn't let go, ensuring he didn't get dragged into a brawl. Meanwhile, third aunt restrained the hysterical aunt, preventing her from attacking my mother. The scene was chaotic. The old lady hadn't been informed of the incident, or she would have arrived sooner to stir up trouble. News travels fast in the village, and the gathering crowd soon alerted her to the commotion. Upon learning her eldest grandson's arrest involved Su's father's family, she arrived in a fury. Mother, why are you here? Third uncle spotted her first, but she ignored him, marched straight to Su's father, and slapped him across the face. The loud crack left the entire crowd stunned. Watching from behind the wall, I could no longer remain silent after seeing my father struck without cause. I regretted intervening in Su Jiqing's affairs, though my original motive was merely to thwart Su Bin, not to play the hero. Grandmother, isn't this too biased? You hit my father without asking a single question. Is this how you act as a mother? The crowd gasped at my audacity. I was truly fearless. I didn't care. I was ready to fight the eldest uncle if necessary, viewing it as a chance to level up my combat skills. Eldest uncle lunged forward, but was blocked by Su's father and third uncle. Go back. Why are you stirring up trouble? Su's father wanted to de-escalate, but I realized that being kind only invited bullying. Father, you've handed over your wages for years, yet the moment cousin gets into trouble, they block our door and hit you. Can't you see they don't care about the truth? They're just using us as punching bags. Do you think this can be explained away? If Subin hadn't tried to frame me by saddling me with his pregnant cousin, he wouldn't be in the police station. Why is it my fault for exposing his crimes? Just because he's the eldest grandson? Does our family have a throne to inherit? The crowd struggled to suppress their laughter, shocked by the revelation of Subin's scheme. Nonsense. You little beast, if you dare slander my niece again, I'll tear your mouth off. Eldest aunt panicked, reacting with immediate hostility. Slander? Your niece got pregnant by a city youth who abandoned her. She's desperate for a husband. Dare to take her to the hospital for a checkup? If I'm lying, I'll accept any punishment. Do you dare, dear aunt? Is this how you treat us? I'm curious. How much did you pay grandmother to make her play the villain and frame her own grandson? Tell us. Let the village hear the truth. The crowd was stunned by this bombshell. Third, shut up. Su's father scolded, embarrassed by the public exposure. Third uncle looked on in disbelief, while the old lady, previously aggressive, now stood trembling and avoiding eye contact, confirming my accusations. The villagers realized the old lady had been willing to sacrifice her own grandson to help her daughter-in-law's niece find a scapegoat. What's going on here? Nothing better to do? Get back to work. Su Daqiang finally arrived. He had known about the situation all along, but Subin's case was already sealed. His amateurish scheme had crumbled under police interrogation. Subin's attempt to force a female youth into marriage had brought shame upon the village, and Su Daqiang had already been reprimanded by the commune leaders. He had intentionally avoided the scene earlier, tired of being dragged into the mess created by the incompetent Subin family. The village party secretary was furious. My constant revelations were turning Sanshuiwan Village into a negative example for the commune. He felt his authority slipping, as he was responsible for the village's moral education. He snapped at Su Fuguwei, ordering him and his wife to leave immediately and stop causing trouble, warning that he wouldn't be lenient if the commune questioned him again. Su Daqiang, the village party secretary, was usually patient with his kin, but his temper had reached its limit. Intimidated by the secretary, Su Fuguwei dragged his wife away without a word, while the grandmother slipped away unnoticed. The secretary then ordered me to the brigade office, warning me not to spout baseless rumors that could ruin reputations. Though stern, the secretary was actually trying to protect me. If the rumor were false, I needed to retract it immediately to stop the gossip. Ignoring the warning, I followed him with a grin. Third uncle took Su's father home, while I accompanied the secretary to the brigade office. Upon arrival, the secretary shoved me inside. He demanded to know if my claims were true, warning that false accusations leading to tragedy would result in legal consequences. In this era, female chastity was paramount. A woman's reputation was everything, and society was far from the later, more cynical attitudes. I insisted the pregnancy was a verified fact, claiming I had stumbled upon the information by chance. I received a sharp slap to the back of my head. The secretary scolded me for being reckless. By exposing the aunt's scheme and the grandmother's involvement so publicly, I had dragged the entire village into a scandal that would soon reach the commune. Su Daqiang felt overwhelmed by the absurdity of the Su family. Unfazed by the slap, I sat down and brazenly helped myself to the secretary's tea. It was only cheap, coarse tea reserved for visiting officials, but it was still brigade property. The secretary accused me of undermining socialism by stealing the tea. I calmly told him to sit down and relax. The secretary glared, but let it slide. He ordered me to write a formal report on the matter, as the commune would inevitably investigate the scandal involving the educated youth. I had previously decided that if others were unkind, I would not be righteous. I hadn't acted until now to avoid ruining the woman's life, but the aunt's manipulation left me no choice. The commune would intervene because the incident involved an educated youth and collective honor. One person's mistake reflected poorly on the entire village. I agreed to write the report. Knowing the father's identity, I could easily construct a coherent narrative. The secretary told me to get lost. I returned home shortly after. I found my father looking grim and third uncle appearing nervous. I asked what was wrong. Su's father demanded to know if I was responsible for Subin's arrest. He had wanted to suppress the issue, but it had spiraled out of control. He had previously convinced himself that the grandmother was unaware of the aunt's schemes, but today's events shattered that illusion. He could blame the aunt, but his mother's behavior had forced him to confront the truth. He needed clarity on the catalyst for today's chaos. I admitted I had tipped off the public security, but insisted that Lai Tu San's confession was due to their own guilt, not my actions. Su's father stood up, pointing at me, speechless with rage. Third uncle tried to mediate, arguing that I wasn't to blame if Su Bin hadn't committed a crime. This only fueled Su's father's outburst. He accused me of being a traitor who prioritized justice over family, ignoring the shame brought upon their ancestors. As a veteran, Su's father was usually principled, but he was blinded by his devotion to his parents. I knew my father wouldn't protect a criminal if he knew the truth. The real issue was that he couldn't bear that his own son was the whistleblower. Su's father could accept Su Bin's imprisonment, but not my role in it, as it shattered the family's fragile peace. I countered that I couldn't understand my father's perspective, as everyone's approach to life differed. I compared life to a meteor, brief but bright, versus a long, unremarkable existence. I acknowledged my father's desire for a quiet, rule-abiding life, but stated I couldn't live that way. I refused to turn the other cheek, labeling myself a small person who wouldn't be a doormat. I explained that when bullies forced their low standards on me, I had to be even more ruthless to ensure they wouldn't dare provoke me again. I maintained that I only retaliated when provoked. Su's father was stunned by his 19-year-old son's maturity and logic. Softening, Su's father admitted that his own timid nature might have stifled his son. He told me to eat and offered to take the blame for any rumors. I realized my father feared the social repercussions of being seen as a family that betrayed its own. Third uncle urged them to eat, dismissing the drama and reassuring them that the village party secretary would keep things under control. He offered to share a drink with Su's father and suggested he take the day off. Su's father insisted on going to work, and third uncle stayed to finish the meal. The rest of the family remained silent, avoiding the tension. Only the youngest sister remained oblivious. I finished my meal and returned to my room. I began drafting the report for the secretary, detailing the pregnancy scandal. I finished my tasks. Su's father had left for work, and third uncle had departed. Only Shengguer, Su Daong, and Su Jin remained. Mother had gone to the fields. Despite the day's drama, avoiding the village was impossible, and they needed work points for food. Ahem, Shengguer, I'm heading back. Su Daong left, greeting me. Lao Si quickly scurried away, fearing I might take my frustration out on him. I'm going to the old party secretary's house, then taking Huzi to town. Do you need me to bring anything back? I asked, my tone calm and composed. Nothing needed. Come back early. I'm heading to the fields with Mother. Lao Si and Su Jin are home, so no need to lock up. Shengguer left with his sickle. Post-spring planting, the workload was lighter, mostly weeding and pest control, so the family only needed 1 or 2 people working at a time. Understood. I left with my books, heading to the village party secretary's house before meeting Huzi. I delivered my report, met Huzi, grabbed the badger and squirrel skins, and they biked toward the city. Brother Yu, sorry about this morning. I knew early on, but my father stopped me, saying it was a family matter. Your father was right. It wasn't your place to intervene. Even with close ties, interfering in family disputes is risky and often counterproductive. Huzi nodded, dropping the subject. They decided to stop at the commune first. Fifth Master, are you in? We're here for an appraisal. I offered a cigarette. I didn't give a whole pack. I wanted to build rapport without appearing like a pushover. Regular gifts were fine for close relationships, but constant handouts would be taken for granted. Fifth Master tucked the cigarette behind his ear and inspected the bag. Wow, so many badger and squirrel skins. There were 9 badger skins. Huzi wanted to sell them to save up for a Mauser rifle. These are fresh, well-processed, and headshot. Not bad. I'll rate them B+, due to minor flaws. 9 skins for 14 yuan. How's that? At roughly 1.5 yuan per skin, the price was fair. Badger skins were large but coarse, making them less valuable than fur, yet they were dangerous to hunt. You're the expert, Fifth Master. If you say B+, it's B+. We trust your judgment. Fifth Master chuckled. You're a sharp one, unlike Huzi. How did you two become friends? He then examined the 10 squirrel skins. These are grade A, 15 yuan for these, plus 14 for the badgers, 29 total. He counted out 29 yuan and handed it to me. I and Huzi thanked him and left, grateful for the fair dealing. As the saying goes, honest service is worth paying for. Brother you, straight to the state-run restaurant. I nodded. Huzi took the bike, and they headed to the city. Manager Fan, I've brought some badger meat. Haha, don't worry. If it's meat, I won't let you make the trip for nothing. I recalled having to sell the sheep and wolf at the market himself last time. Lu Yuanqing, come take a look. Lu arrived and confirmed the meat was fresh badger. Manager, it's fresh. Stewed with goji berries, it's quite nourishing. Manager Fan signaled Xiaoli to weigh it. Brother, badger meat is game, but it's a pain to season properly. Otherwise, it tastes terrible. Our restaurant takes on the cost of preparation, so I can't offer a premium price, but I'll get you a fair deal. Xiao Li and Huzi waited. 127 jin. 127 jin is a lot. If it doesn't sell quickly, it's a risk. I'll give you 0.85 yuan per jin. I pushed for that extra 5 cents. Usually, I'd only pay 0.78. Total, 107.95. Let's just call it 108 yuan. I wondered why the manager was being so theatrical. Haha, thanks. We'll be going now. I took the money and left immediately. Brother you, 0.85 isn't that high. Pork is 0.75. We could get 0.80 at the market. I explained that while the market might pay 0.80, it would take forever to sell, whereas the restaurant bought the whole lot. The manager's attitude changed. Maybe the soft-shelled turtle from last time worked, or he just doesn't need us as much now. People are fickle. It was a normal price. Huzi just thought it was low because the previous deals had been unusually generous. Let's grab some tofu pudding and buns first. Brother you, where to after eating? Keep shopping or head back. I'm going to the library to borrow some books. Huzi was stunned. He'd rather work the fields than read. Knowledge is power. Within books, there are houses of gold. But there are no traps or roe deer in books. I ignored him. I wanted to see if studying could help me acquire new skills. Like carpentry, my brother's room was too bare for when I eventually got married. Enough. Here's your share for the badger skins, for 0.5 yuan. I handed Huzi his cut. Do you want to wait at the park while I'm at the library? I didn't force him. Rural areas didn't value education much, even though college graduates were guaranteed jobs. If it were easy, my brother would have been a college student already. Many people had gone mad or failed over a single point. I don't know anyone in the city. I'd better go to the library with you. I can't handle those black market thugs alone if I run into them at the park. I realized those thugs, having broken their own rules, were likely being punished by their boss, Fox, forced to work without pay until they repaid 30 yuan. They definitely held a grudge. Let's go then. I went to pay, but Huzi beat me to it. Huzi insisted, noting that I had already paid several times. They couldn't keep letting me spend my money. I didn't argue. As childhood friends, I understood Huzi's pride. While they didn't keep score, I understood the need for balance in our friendship. They soon arrived at the library. Huzi looked around, clearly amazed by the surroundings. I tugged his arm, signaling him to act less like a country bumpkin. Huzi chuckled and toned it down. They waited quietly behind a few women at the counter. I knew I needed a library card to borrow books. Given the library's size, I'd need the administrator's help to find what I needed. The administrator, a clean-shaven man in his 40s wearing glasses and a neat uniform, finally turned to them. Comrades, how can I help you? The administrator was surprisingly warm, likely due to his education and professional environment. Hello, comrade. I'd like to get a library card and borrow books on carpentry, from beginner to advanced. The man pondered, then replied, I can issue a card, but our carpentry collection is small. I'll help you find them first. You can decide whether to register after seeing what we have. I nodded, offering a friendly smile. I appreciated the man's dedication. The administrator led them to the shelves, where they found over a dozen relevant books. I immediately paid the 15 yuan deposit, registered for the card, and left with Huzi. Brother you, isn't that too expensive? 15 yuan for just a dozen books. It's a deposit, Huzi. I get it back when I return the books. The card fee was 5, so it's reasonable. Because I wasn't a city resident, the library required a higher deposit to ensure the books were returned. After spending 19.5 yuan total, I had less than 10 yuan left. Back in the village, I asked, I'm going to drop off the bike and cut some wood. Wanna come? While the nearby trees were collective property, the mountain trees were fair game if I didn't overdo it. You want to teach yourself carpentry? Sure, I'm in, Huzi agreed instantly. To be safe, I visited the village party secretary and paid 5 yuan to purchase the timber. The money was recorded officially and handed over to the brigade accountant. I and Huzi hauled back 15 or 16 logs. Without my immense strength, they never could have moved that much wood, even with a bullock cart. I told Huzi to rest and invited him for lunch. After Huzi left, I began testing my books. Third brother, why did you bring back so much wood? My younger sister asked. I patted her head. Big brother is getting married. I'm making him some furniture. The village soon caught wind of my plan. Many laughed, doubting I could actually build furniture. They didn't mock me to my face, but the skepticism was clear. I retreated inside to begin my self-study. I checked the system repeatedly, but my carpentry skill remained inactive. I must be too distracted. I need to focus on these books first before checking the system again. I realized I couldn't rely on shortcuts. I had to actually learn the craft, including the mortise and tenon structures. One step at a time. I'll start with a stool. A simple stool required drilling 4 holes and securing the legs, a test of precision. At noon, my family returned. Third brother, I heard you're building furniture yourself, and even bought wood from the brigade. Mother Sue was shocked. Her son had 0 experience with carpentry. She couldn't fathom why I'd suddenly decided to do this. I'm teaching myself, Mother. Don't worry about it. I'm heading to the city this afternoon. Mother Sue noticed her son had grown independent and decided not to nag him about the money. In the city, I spent dozens of yuan on professional tools, saws, chisels, and more, after consulting the shop staff. It cost as much as buying new furniture, but I felt the skill was worth far more than the items themselves. That evening, Sue's father saw the pile of logs and learned of my plan. The boy is messing around. Once I get my pay, I'll hire carpenter he from the next village to build the furniture instead. Mother Sue was surprised by her husband's willingness to contribute his wages, but she didn't object. For 3 days, I didn't touch the wood, leading everyone to believe I had given up. In reality, I spent every night reading until late, finishing all the books. I knew books couldn't teach muscle memory or experience, but they provided the necessary theoretical foundation. I only needed to understand the principles. Mastery would come later. Open system. I checked my stats. Age 19, physique 15, strength 25, speed 10, stamina 20. Skills: fishing 4-3, basic archery 4-9, tracking 4-7, dog training 4-1, combat fighting 4-1, butchery 4-1, rock climbing 4-7, marksmanship 4-8. Skill points, 30. No new skill. I need practical experience. I started on a stool. It was clumsy work, and I broke a sweat, nearly hitting my hand with the chisel, but I persisted. As I installed the final leg, a wave of carpentry experience flooded my mind. It worked. I felt a sudden, intuitive grasp of the craft. I realized the system had finally registered the skill. Open system panel. The panel updated. Carpentry 4-1 appeared alongside my other skills. Haha, just as I thought. Theory alone isn't enough. You have to put it into practice. I lacked any woodworking knowledge and decided to study theory first rather than wasting time on trial and error. System: allocate all 30 skill points to carpentry. Knowledge flooded my mind instantly. Status: I, 19, physique 15, strength 25, speed 10, stamina 20. Skills: fishing LV3, basic archery LV9, tracking LV7, dog training LV1, combat fighting LV1, butchery LV1, rock climbing LV7, marksmanship LV8, carpentry LV5. Skill points: 0. 30 points reached level 5, making me an elite craftsman in the local area. Level 9 is the human limit. Level 5 is sufficient to build high-quality furniture with decades of implied experience. I discarded my amateurish stool and began working in earnest. I ambitiously planned a wardrobe, bed, vanity, square table, and master chairs for my eldest brother. I also planned washstands and furniture for my parents' room and myself. With my new skill, sawing wood felt effortless and intuitive. By noon, I had completed a full wardrobe. The wardrobe was seamless, elegant, and featured intricate carvings, far surpassing the crude, coffin-like designs of the past. My mother returned at noon and was stunned, initially thinking I had purchased it. "Third son, you made this?" His eldest brother was equally incredulous, knowing that woodworking is a trade that usually requires years of apprenticeship. It was impossible for a novice to master such a craft overnight, yet I had delivered a miracle. Mother ordered the eldest brother to stay home and assist me for the rest of the day. Xiuqin happily agreed, attributing my success to natural talent and the books I had read. Despite their disbelief, the evidence was undeniable. By evening, they had finished the vanity and bed, completing the brothers' room furniture. I applied a clear oil finish to make the wood smooth and lustrous. "That's enough for today. The table and chairs can wait." Xiuqin was thrilled with the upgrade to his living space. Su's father returned and was shocked, suspecting I might have secretly apprenticed elsewhere. "Third son, continuing tomorrow?" "I'll rest. I plan to head into the mountains with Huzi tomorrow. The yard is already full of drying furniture." Xiuqin agreed, noting the lack of space for more items. Dinner was quiet, as the family remained tense over Su Bin's situation. The next day, I met Huzi, who handed me the Mauser rifle while taking the Tusher bow for himself. Huzi eagerly accepted the rifle, clearly wanting to try it out. "Brother Yu, are we heading to Swan Lake?" Huzi noted that swans were migrating and made for good eating. I knew these birds would soon be protected, but I had bigger plans. Hunting swans was time-consuming and inefficient. Swans are too alert. Once I fire, they'll all scatter, and I can't guarantee 5 hits with a bolt-action rifle. Waiting for them is a waste. I have a rifle. We should be hunting large predators. A tiger, for instance, could be worth over 1,000 yuan. A complete tiger pelt alone was worth at least 500 yuan. The parts were highly valuable and easily sold to wealthy buyers without complex processing. "Fine, I'll just follow your lead." I stood still, inhaling deeply to track the scent of prey in the mountains. "Let's go this way." I led the way, with Huzi following, enjoying the fresh mountain air. "Brother Yu, we've walked 2 miles. Are we there yet?" Huzi carried 3 pheasants and 3 rabbits I had shot along the way. "Put those in the basket." I stowed the game, telling Huzi my hunter's intuition told me we were close to a bigger catch. Huzi trusted me, having seen my success at the Huang family's back mountain. "All right, let's keep going." Huzi followed, despite the difficult terrain. "Brother Yu, that's surely slope ahead, the deep mountain area. It's a hunter's forbidden zone." Huzi was exhausted, struggling through the thickets. "We'll stay on the outskirts. You can rest here while I take a look." Shirley Slope was the gateway to the deep mountains, a place where dangerous beasts often roamed. The deep mountains were vast, untouched, and filled with ancient, massive trees. The area was infested with venomous creatures and was notoriously perilous. A small stream separated them from the true deep mountain wilderness, where the danger level spiked. While the slope was only the periphery, it was still a hunting ground for predators. "I'll stay here. Give me the rifle and rest," I said. Huzi sat on a rock by the stream, watching me jump across to head toward the slope. "The scent is fading here. Did it disappear?" I patrolled Shirley Slope with my rifle, alert for any ferocious beasts that might emerge. Stopping at a tree, I found a strand of fur. Sniffing it, I realized it belonged to the prey I was tracking. A wild boar, but why has the scent faded here? Suddenly, I caught a new scent, stood up, and tightened my grip on my rifle. I smelled blood. The boar had likely been claimed by a predator. To track specific scents, my nose automatically filtered out others to avoid sensory overload. Having focused on the boar, I had momentarily forgotten that other top-tier predators roamed these woods. I opened my 6 senses and immediately detected the faint, bloody scent coming from behind me. Cold sweat broke out as I recognized the distinct scent of a feline predator. I couldn't just stand there, but turning to fire risked a fatal neck bite if I missed the head. Do or die. Instead of turning, I lunged forward, rolled, and crouched, ready to fire. As I crouched, I saw a beast unlike any other. It had one white eye and a deep, old scar across its forehead, making it look even more vicious. Roar! The beast lunged at me, its roar scattering the birds in the forest. The sound shook the woods, and I could see the beast's throat and smell its foul breath at point-blank range. I tried to pull the trigger, but the beast was already upon me. I barely dodged the claws with another desperate roll. Had my physique not been superior, I would have been killed instantly. My survival instinct and enhanced speed allowed me to narrowly escape. The entire encounter, from my first roll to the beast's strike, lasted less than 3 seconds. My marksmanship was sufficient, but the beast's roar and the rifle's length hindered me, forcing me to dodge. System, add points to combat fighting, quick. I checked my stats. Physique 15, Strength 25, Speed 10, Stamina 20. Skills, Fishing 4-3, Basic Archery 4-9, Tracking 4-7, Dog Training 4-1, Combat Fighting 4-1, Butchery 4-1, Rock Climbing 4-7, Marksmanship 4-8, Carpentry 4-5. Points, 15. The system immediately upgraded combat fighting from 4-1 to 4-4. Updated stats, Physique 18, Speed 15. Points, 0. My physique and speed increased. Strength remained the same, likely because my current strength was already sufficient for 4-4 combat. The upgrade provided a flood of combat knowledge and muscle memory. I gained a deep, practical understanding of various fighting styles, regardless of their origin. The system prioritized the most efficient, lethal techniques over specific schools of thought. With my boosted speed, I vaulted up a tree with agile, monkey-like movements. The beast landed and turned, snarling in frustration. I grabbed my rifle, now feeling secure. I realized I would have died without my quick thinking and the points earned from hunting with Huzi. Perched on a branch, I identified the beast, a biao. A biao is a rejected, runt tiger cub that survives by turning against its own kin. Most have defects, but those that survive are exceptionally vengeful. This one was small, but clearly dangerous. Roar! The biao charged. Tigers can climb, but descending is difficult, so it hesitated. I have my gun now, you can't scare me. I fired, hitting the beast in its blind eye and killing it instantly. I waited, knowing the biao was cunning and vengeful. Phew, it's dead. After a minute, I jumped down and confirmed the beast was lifeless. I realized that speed was essential for survival in the forest. I noted that attribute gains were tied to specific skill upgrades. I realized that to increase strength further, I might need to master skills like weightlifting. For speed, I considered parkour. I decided to stop hoarding points and start leveling up other skills. Carrying the 300-pound tiger, I left Shirley Slope. I decided to avoid this area until I was stronger. Brother, are you carrying a tiger? Huzi was stunned, having heard the gunshot and feared the worst. Seeing me return with the massive beast left him speechless. Huzi, take the cart to the woods near the village entrance and bring a cloth to cover this. Huzi understood the need for secrecy. I'm on it. Wait, take the bow back. I kept my rifle, wary of potential dangers on the path back. Understood. Huzi sprinted back along the mountain path, which they had already cleared of thorns during their ascent. A 300-pound tiger is a massive burden. Most men would struggle to carry it even a short distance, let alone down a mountain. I, however, possessed 2.5 times the strength of an average man, making me more than capable of the feat. Huzi reached the small woods near the village entrance just as I arrived. Brother, I brought a feed sack large enough for the big worm. Huzi had brought a large, makeshift sack typically used for cow feed. I stuffed the tiger into the sack and secured it with the rope Huzi provided. I'm heading to the county town. Do you want to come? If so, go back, grab your skinning knife, and borrow the bicycle from the village head. Huzi hesitated, noting it would be dark by the time they returned. Should we go tomorrow? I dismissed the idea. If I waited, the tiger meat might spoil, and I risked neighbors discovering my sudden wealth if I brought the carcass back home. No, if the meat hardens or spoils, the value will plummet. Huzi agreed. While rural folk weren't picky about slightly off meat, a tiger was too valuable to risk. Fine, I'll go with you for safety, Huzi said. I promised him a share of the profits. Huzi refused, knowing that accepting a share of a tiger hunt, which carried immense risk, would only lead to trouble with his father. He understood that maintaining a friendship required knowing one's place. Freeloading would eventually destroy their bond. Brother, I can't take a cent. I didn't help kill it, and I'd be shamed if I took money just for lending a bike. I told him to go home and inform his family he'd be late, then waited while smoking a cigarette. I checked my system panel. Physique 18, Strength 25, Speed 15, Stamina 20. Skills included Archery, for 9, Tracking, for 7, Combat Fighting, for 4, Butchery, for 1, Rock Climbing, for 7, Marksmanship, for 8, and Carpentry, for 5. I had 50 skill points. Killing the tiger had rewarded me with 50 skill points, a massive gain. I pondered if the reward was based on the difficulty of the kill rather than the animal's size or intelligence. The system lacked a manual, forcing me to deduce its mechanics through trial and error. I waited for Huzi, believing that traveling in a pair would deter potential bandits. I preferred not to rely on playing the pig to eat the tiger if I could avoid the risk, especially since firearms were still accessible in this era. Huzi returned on the bicycle, carrying a cloth-wrapped object resembling a rifle. I brought the cloth you used for your gun, Huzi said, handing it over. He revealed it was just a wooden stick, intended to intimidate any troublemakers. I felt relieved. I didn't want the local militia, who were highly vigilant against enemy agents, to start asking questions about my hunt. Even if the militia didn't steal my money, attracting attention would lead to unwanted requests for loans. Good. Let's go. I mounted the bike with the tiger carcass, followed by Huzi, who carried a few small game animals for their families. Are we heading to the state-run restaurant? Huzi asked. I shook my head. No, we're going to the traditional Chinese medicine shop. A TCM shop? I didn't explain, but I had no intention of dealing with Manager Fan again, who had proven to be ungrateful and untrustworthy. They had been in the mountains since dawn and traveled through the difficult, surely sloped terrain. By the time they reached the county town, it was already 1 p.m. After some inquiries, I identified the best local TCM shops. We're going to Huikong Traditional Chinese Medicine Shop. It's the largest and a public-private partnership. TCM shops were often preserved under public-private partnerships because their specialized knowledge was irreplaceable. Huikong was a multi-generational establishment with genuine expertise. A tiger was a treasure trove for medicine, from its bones and tendons to its claws and organs. Selling to a restaurant would be a waste, especially given Manager Fan's character. Huzi watched the bike. I'll go in alone. Huzi agreed, understanding my caution regarding the shop's staff. I entered the shop, observing the busy counter and the doctors attending to patients. I waited patiently. Despite my humble attire, my calm demeanor drew notice. The doctor, skilled in looking at patients, realized I wasn't there for medical treatment. Comrade, how can I help you? A young apprentice approached, prompted by an older man behind the counter. I need to speak with the manager. This is a business matter you can't handle. The apprentice went to report, returning shortly to lead me to a private room. I followed, thinking that money was worth the cloak and dagger atmosphere. 15 minutes later, I emerged, looking pleased, and signaled Huzi. Huzi struggled to push the bike over as I carried the heavy tiger carcass inside. The apprentice led them to a quiet back courtyard. I unveiled the tiger. Mr. Li, this beast was killed recently. It's fresh. Haha, young comrade, we aren't a butcher shop. We deal in medicinal herbs. Freshness is secondary to the value of the parts. I didn't believe that. Tiger meat is medicinal, and if it were rotten, it would be useless. Elderly, I may be young, but I'm not a fool. If you aren't interested, we'll leave. Huzi, pack up. We're leaving. Elderly hesitated. Having seen the tiger, he couldn't let them go. It was a male tiger, highly valuable. Wait. I didn't say it wasn't worth anything. Why the rush, young comrade? The old man sighed. Modern youths were too aggressive, threatening to leave just to drive up the price. Elder, we're hunters by trade. We know the value of this beast. Don't play games. Let's talk price. The old man countered. I need to see the condition first. Why don't you skin it? I agreed. The tendons, kidneys, gall, and bile could only be valued once exposed. Upon dissection, the old man sighed. The tiger bile was already stained with blood. You claim to be hunters, yet you didn't extract the bile immediately? It's devalued now. I wanted to admit this was my first tiger, but I stayed silent. Caught in the lie, I brushed it off and asked, is it still valuable? It's not ruined, just devalued. Since the blood is fresh, it's still usable. I exhaled in relief. To prove my skill, I decided to use my system points. Status: Age 19, Physique 18, Strength 25, Speed 15, Stamina 20. Skills: Fishing 4-3, Basic Archery 4-9, Tracking 4-7, Dog Training 4-1, Combat Fighting 4-4, Butchery 4-1, Rock Climbing 4-7, Marksmanship 4-8, Carpentry 4-5. Skill points: 50. System: Upgrade Butchery. Butchery reached for 7. Skill points: 0. A surge of muscle memory flooded my brain. I picked up the skinning knife, my movements suddenly fluid and expert. I separated meat from bone with surgical precision, finishing in record time. Incredible. I never expected to see such craftsmanship in our county. To the old man, watching me work was like witnessing art. With the work done, it was time to negotiate. I haggled fiercely, threatening to take my rare goods elsewhere, leaving the old man trembling with frustration. The tiger bile sold for 200, one eye for 20, and the tendons, kidneys, teeth, claws, and stomach for 80. The 35 pounds of bone and 280 pounds of meat were the main haul. Tiger meat went for 5 yuan per pound, 1,350 total. Tiger bone, usually 200 yuan per pound in the future, was valued at 100 yuan per pound here due to market risks. The old man couldn't pay full price. He had to account for the difficulty of selling such expensive medicinal goods to the average person. Like wild ginseng, tiger bone was a high-value asset that tied up capital, requiring a risk premium. If I were in Jingcheng, I could have made 7,000 yuan, but in this small county, the price was capped. Total: 3,500 bones, plus 1,350 meat, plus 20 eye, plus 80 parts, plus 200 bile, equals 5,150 yuan. Young man, are you selling the hide? I asked. Is that medicinal too? No, I just want it for my rocking chair to add prestige to my shop. I didn't care about the old man's motives as long as the payment was prompt. What's your offer? I knew the commune would offer no more than 500, so I was ready to negotiate. Your skinning is flawless. I'll offer 550 yuan. The old man offered his best price to avoid further haggling with the difficult youth. 550? Deal. Total: 5,700 yuan. A fortune. The old man returned with a thick stack of 10 yuan bills for me to count. Huzi's breathing hitched. He had never seen so much money. Hunting a tiger was a life-risking feat, worthy of being called a hero in any era. Even with a gun, few dared to face a tiger alone. It was blood money. I urged Huzi to leave immediately, anxious about carrying such a large sum. I wrapped the 570 bills in my clothes and tied them securely in a bag. Keeping it on my person would be too suspicious. I skipped the black market, fearing the risk, but stopped at the town's supply and marketing cooperative. Huzi watched the bike. I'm going in. I trusted Huzi completely. I bought supplies to provide a cover story for our trip and to treat my family. I returned with 2 bags. They headed toward the commune to sell the remaining game. The commune bought game at low prices, but it was safer than the market. Huzi returned. The 5th master only gave us 12 yuan. Forget it, let's go. They only sold it to avoid suspicion upon returning home. Back home, I told Huzi to return the bike and meet me later. I went inside, gave my younger sister some biscuits to keep her occupied, and locked my door. I opened the bag and recounted the money, just to be sure. After confirming the money was correct, I called Huzi inside and handed him 500 yuan. Huzi was stunned, protesting that the tiger was my kill and he shouldn't take a share. I insisted, claiming it was for the Mauser rifle Huzi had always wanted, framing it as a finder's fee to keep him quiet. I urged him to accept it to avoid gossip, emphasizing our friendship. Knowing it was a gesture of generosity, Huzi grinned and accepted the money. They avoided the awkwardness of further refusal. I then handed over a net bag of snacks for Huzi's family. Huzi accepted the snacks without further hesitation. After my recent expenses on tools and supplies, my remaining balance stood at approximately 5,240 yuan. Huzi was deeply moved, having initially expected only a small share of the game meat proceeds. In this era, 500 yuan was a small fortune, equivalent to 50,000 yuan in the future. It was a significant sum that even urban working families would struggle to produce. I locked the cash in a metal box and hid it securely. I felt relieved. While 5,000 yuan was trivial in my past life, it was immensely valuable now. Little sister peeked in, claiming she was still hungry despite having just eaten. I knew she was feigning hunger, especially since Huzi had provided plenty of game meat for the family. My family treated her as the youngest and only daughter, ensuring she was always well fed. I checked her belly, which was already full. I tickled her until she admitted she wasn't actually hungry. They laughed together as the ruse ended. She had hoped to hoard extra snacks for a midnight feast while their mother was away. I promised her a good dinner. I had bought over a pound of cured beef, split between 2 bags. I had spent precious meat coupons to acquire the beef. I steamed some bread and gave my sister a few slices of beef to keep her occupied. Soon, the rest of the family returned home. I had timed my return perfectly to coincide with dinner. When my family noticed the beef, I dismissed their questions and insisted they eat. I served my sister a small dish of beef. The family accepted my favoritism toward her without complaint. They questioned if I had been hunting in the mountains again. They knew I had gone to town, but were unaware of my specific business. Mother Su scolded me for being wasteful, despite the abundance of meat. Though she acted stern, she was secretly proud of my newfound ability to provide. She compared my competence favorably to my older brother's youth. I had become the family's pillar, even contributing carpentry work. I urged them to stop worrying and enjoy the meal. I served my mother some beef, silencing her complaints. Mother Su then asked about the status of the eldest brother's marriage prospects. The eldest brother looked visibly anxious at the mention of the topic. I reassured him, promising to investigate the delay the next day. I offered to handle the inquiry myself. The eldest brother hesitated, feeling guilty about relying on his younger sibling. I insisted he stay and work, claiming I could handle it alone. The eldest brother relented and shared news. Subin had been sentenced to 1 year, thanks to a letter of leniency from the educated youth, Xiuqin. I was surprised by her decision to forgive. I suspected the influence of the village chief and the production team leader. With enough pressure, the soft-hearted Xiuqin likely felt compelled to sign. The eldest uncle had knelt, paid 100 yuan, and provided gifts and grain to secure the leniency. It was a heavy price for the eldest uncle to pay. The money likely came from the grandfather's savings, which the eldest uncle had been depleting. Meat and grain were difficult to acquire without proper coupons. The eldest uncle must have resorted to the black market. The grain, too, was almost certainly sourced from the black market. I estimated the total cost to the eldest uncle was over 200 yuan, a massive blow to their finances. I remained indifferent, as I had no intention of reclaiming the funds my father provided to my grandparents. I finished my meal and prepared to leave, but Huzi arrived, eager to invite me to buy a rifle. I asked if Huzi had told his family about the purchase. Huzi shook his head. Huzi explained that his father, a militiaman, would never approve of him spending money on a second rifle when he already had one issued. Although his father's rifle wasn't personal property, he could use it until retirement. Huzi doubted his father would understand the need for another. I agreed to accompany Huzi to buy a gun before heading to Lijiawa, warning him to handle any potential fallout with his father himself. They rode to the city and headed to the state-run store, hoping to find Huzi. I had discussed the budget. They needed to decide between a new store-bought rifle or a second-hand one from Huzi. A second-hand rifle from Huzi was easier to negotiate, and he would likely include extra ammunition, unlike the store. Store-bought rifles were brand new, but only came with 5 test rounds. The advantage of the store was the pristine status of the weapon. I understood that for some, a gun was like a second wife. I wouldn't force Huzi to accept a used one if he had a preference for new. I provided the money but left the final decision to Huzi, offering to cover ammo costs if needed. Huzi, having played with his father's rifle, had no such hang-ups and agreed to see Huzi. They spotted Huzi, wearing his signature military overcoat, outside the store. I tossed a pebble at Huzi to get his attention. Huzi cursed, then recognized me and waved. Huzi, cautious in his line of work, quickly identified me. Huzi greeted them, asking if there were issues with the previous rifle. I sat on my bike, smoking, while Huzi watched. I explained my friend wanted a rifle. Huzi asked about available models. Huzi listed several, including a box cannon, hinting he could even source a Browning for the right price. Huzi decided he wanted a Mauser rifle, just like mine. Huzi admitted he only had an 80% new Mauser, but guaranteed its quality and offered a return policy. I nodded, signaling to Huzi that 80% was acceptable. Huzi asked for a fair price. Huzi promised a good deal, valuing their repeat business. I directed Huzi to meet them at the usual forest spot. They rode off to the forest. Huzi arrived shortly with his associate, who carried the rifle. I inspected the rifle and demanded the price. I worked the bolt and fired at a magpie nearby. The shot rang out. With my marksmanship skill, I hit the target instantly. Huzi praised my improved accuracy. I pressured Huzi on the price, leading Huzi to offer 450 yuan with 5 boxes of ammo. I scoffed, noting the 10% where difference didn't justify such a small discount. I countered with 350 yuan for 3 boxes or 400 yuan for 15 boxes. Huzi had to decide whether to accept the deal. Huzi chose the 400 yuan offer. Huzi calculated that the higher volume still ensured a profit. I left the final choice to Huzi. Huzi was satisfied. 400 rounds were more than enough to master the weapon. The rifle's condition was nearly identical to mine. Huzi handed over the 400 yuan. Huzi trusted my judgment and didn't feel the need to test it further. They exchanged the money and the goods. They quickly verified the ammo count by weight and inspection. Huzi confirmed the count, and I asked if Huzi could source a scope for the Mauser. I wanted a scope to mask my naturally superhuman marksmanship. Huzi warned that scopes were rare and expensive, potentially costing as much as a rifle. I told him to contact me in Sanshuiwan if he found one. I was genuinely curious about the era's optics. Huzi agreed to keep an eye out and alert his contacts. Huzi made the promise to maintain rapport. I added that I was also looking for binoculars, noting that Huzi wouldn't lose money since he could always resell them. Huzi agreed, realizing the low risk. They concluded the meeting, and I and Huzi departed. Huzi and I rode off. Huzi, thrilled, proudly wore his rifle on his back without bothering to cover it. I ignored the rifle as we arrived in Lijiawa. Huzi asked if we were there to propose for Shangur. I dismissed the question, telling Huzi to just follow along. At the village party secretary's house, the secretary's wife opened the door. Seeing me, her expression shifted, but she let us in. She called for her husband, announcing that the young man from Sanshuiwan had arrived. I hadn't brought gifts this time, but I entered confidently, unconcerned by social etiquette. The old party secretary emerged and immediately spotted the rifle on Huzi's back. I noticed the secretary's wary gaze and realized the man suspected we had come to settle a score. I politely explained we were just in town to buy a rifle and apologized for arriving empty-handed. The secretary's expression softened, and he waved off the apology. He insisted that he couldn't accept gifts, including the ones I had brought previously. His wife reluctantly retrieved the snacks, cigarettes, and alcohol I had left during my last visit. I asked if Xiuqin had rejected the proposal. The secretary clarified that it wasn't the girl's decision, but his own, and told them to find another matchmaker. I, confused, asked what I had done wrong to warrant such a change of heart. Seeing my calm and respectful demeanor, the secretary hesitated. The secretary explained he had been tasked with vetting my brother for Xiuqin's father, as the girl couldn't go to Sanshuiwan herself. He revealed he had been told that my brother was a hoodlum, that I had framed my own cousin, and that my father had stolen his brother's job and neglected his parents. The secretary asked how he could possibly recommend such a family to Li Daolong. Huzi and I were stunned by these malicious lies. Huzi immediately demanded to know who had spread such nonsense. I countered the claims, explaining my brother had long since stopped fighting and that my father's job was a state-assigned position for a veteran. The secretary realized that if the job claim was a lie, the rest of the accusations were likely malicious fabrications as well. He wondered aloud if his informant had a personal vendetta against my family. The secretary regretted his gullibility, realizing he should have consulted his colleague, Su Daqiang, instead of trusting a single, biased source. The old party secretary felt foolish for nearly being duped. He didn't doubt my claims about my father's military service, as it was easily verifiable through the commune or the Sanshuiwan Village party secretary. Realizing he had almost been misled, he asked, "Suyu, you haven't already replied to Xiuqin, have you?" The village party secretary waved him off, denying any contact with the Li family or Li Daolong. He explained that since Xiuqin hadn't reached out, He hadn't felt the need to respond to anyone yet. I felt relieved. I realized the lack of updates over the past few days wasn't due to negligence, but interference from others. Don't blame yourself, I said. Come with me to Sanshuiwan. You can verify everything with our village party secretary and inspect my home personally to see the truth. I admitted I suspected my eldest uncle or grandparents were the ones spreading rumors. I explained how my cousin had framed the educated youth, ensuring the old party secretary heard the truth directly from me rather than through biased gossip. I trust you, the old party secretary replied. I pressed him to come anyway, insisting that as a mediator, he needed to be thorough for Xiuqin's sake. The old party secretary agreed, noting that there was no time to waste. They rode to Sanshuiwan. I directed him to the village party secretary's home, opting to stay back to avoid any appearance of impropriety. I and Huzi returned home, with Huzi heading off to hide his rifle. I parked my bike and entered my house. Approaching noon, I began preparing a meal of braised badger meat with cabbage and corn cakes, intending to host the old party secretary. When Huzi returned and heard the plan, he ran home to fetch a whole badger. Huzi had plenty left over from his previous catch. I questioned why he brought so much. Huzi insisted on using the whole badger to make the meal more flavorful for Xiuqin's sake. I cooked the badger with spices, cabbage, and corn cakes, letting the pot simmer. Soon, my mother, eldest brother, Xiuqin, and younger sister returned. My mother immediately smelled the rich aroma of the meat. I explained the situation with the Li family and the rumors, causing Xiuqin to flare with anger. It must be the eldest uncle's family. Xiuqin cursed. I cautioned him to remain calm when the old party secretary arrived and suggested inviting the village party secretary to help host. Xiuqin agreed, and my mother decided to accompany him to ensure they showed proper respect. The two tidied up and headed to the village party secretary's house. Third brother, what smells so good? My younger sister asked. She peeked into the kitchen, sniffing the air. Amused, I gave her a piece of badger meat in a small bowl and sent her to her room to eat, maintaining proper decorum for their guest. I don't mind spoiling my younger sister within reason, provided it doesn't cross the line. I only keep up appearances for outsiders. Huzi volunteered to move the table, while Laosi immediately rushed to wash the dishes, terrified of being kicked by me. I served a pot of stewed badger with cabbage. In these lean times, having meat soup was a rare luxury. Su's father returned, so I briefed him on the situation with the Lijiawa village party secretary to ensure his father wouldn't appear indifferent to my marriage. I gave my father 2 packs of Haidman cigarettes I had on hand. His father was surprised. You learned to smoke? And such expensive stuff? His father knew the value. 3 Mao a pack, plus a ration coupon, as he only smoked when offered. Xiuqin's mother. You're too polite. I should head back. The matchmaker. Old Man Li demurred. Cut it out. Old Man Li, Su Daqiang interrupted. You're the head matchmaker. You're staying for a meal. Su Daqiang and the others brought Secretary Li inside. Su's father greeted Secretary Li and ushered him into the room. I apologized for the humble hospitality, offering the badger stew and fingio. I retrieved the fingio from under my bed. I had bought it specifically for such occasions to show proper respect. The adults and Huzi sat at the table. My younger sister and Xiuqin ate in the kitchen, as they weren't involved in the formal matchmaker negotiations. Huzi stayed because he was an adult and familiar with the Lijiawa secretary. The meal concluded shortly after. I urged my father and brother to head to Li Xiuqin's home immediately to finalize the wedding, wanting to avoid any interference from my eldest uncle. Secretary Li understood that trouble referred to the eldest uncle and respected the family's filial piety, which was the norm of the era. The old party secretary saw nothing unusual in the family's traditional values. Let's go, Secretary Li agreed. I pulled Xiuqin aside. I gave my brother a parcel and dozens of Yuan. I've prepared the betrothal gifts. Check if you're satisfied. The parcel contained brown sugar, malt extract, 2 large sausages, 2 packs of Haidman, and a bottle of Matai. Matai? Isn't this too precious? Xiuqin asked. In 1970, Matai was prohibitively expensive and required rare coupons, far beyond the reach of ordinary workers. A bottle was worth 4 or 5 hens, making it an immense fortune for rural folk. Don't be coy. You need to impress her foster father to win her hand, I urged. I didn't explain where I got the coupons, simply pushing my brother out the door. Shenguer packed the gifts and left with his father on the bicycle I had bought. Mother Su handed the 50 yuan I had provided to Su's father, who tucked it away. The group set off for the village secretary's house. Huzi stood with me, watching them depart. Brother you, if you're worried, why not go with them? Huzi asked. He's my brother, not my son. If I handle everything, what's his role as a husband? I replied. Huzi agreed, noting that Shenguer was just shy, not foolish. Forget him. Want to head into the mountains this afternoon? I asked. Huzi was eager to test his new rifle. Definitely. Let's hunt before my father finds out I have the gun. I laughed and headed inside to move the furniture. They replaced the old furniture in Shenguer's room with the new, intricately carved set I had crafted. Huzi admired the craftsmanship and asked me to make him a set for his own future wedding. Sure, you provide the wood. I'll do the work, I promised. I couldn't refuse my close friends and family. They finished moving the furniture, clearing out the old pieces. Huzi asked what to do with the old furniture. I planned to move it to the younger sister's room and keep space open in case Xiuqin's foster father needed to stay later. My younger sister would move into my room. Huzi wondered if Xiuqin would agree to the extra person. I calculated that Xiuqin's foster father wouldn't move in for years, if at all, given his pride. Even if he did, it would only be for a short time when he could no longer care for himself. I figured that by then, I would have moved out anyway. It was a small price for a good sister-in-law. I kept these thoughts to myself, maintaining the appearance of a thoughtful host. A knock at the door interrupted them. Xiuqin went to open the gate. A pretty girl stood outside. I pushed past Xiuqin. Huang Sui, you're here? Huzi recognized her as she held a cloth bag. My mother sent some cured meat. Aren't you going to invite me in? She asked. I chuckled. My apologies. I was so happy to see you I forgot. Come in. Mother Su, Lu Yuji, emerged and was delighted to see Huang Sui. I had previously met Sui when she visited with her brothers and village secretary to thank me for saving her father, though I had been distracted at the time. Mother Su warmly welcomed her. Sui presented some bacon from her mother as a gift. Mother Su happily accepted, ushering her inside and fussing over the long journey she had made. She then scolded me to go boil water instead of just standing around. I grumbled but complied, while Huzi sighed, realizing his plans to head into the mountains were ruined. Mother Su led Sui inside, while Sui playfully teased me, clearly amused by my reluctance. I shook my head and went to boil the water with Huzi. Sui's visit wasn't just about the bacon. Her father, old man Huang, had recovered and was aware of the village gossip regarding his daughter's supposed partner. He didn't oppose the rumors and encouraged Sui to spend time with me, hoping the man would eventually initiate a formal proposal. They hoped that by showing closeness, I would naturally gauge the Huang family's stance on a potential marriage. Sui, unaware of this scheme, believed she was simply fulfilling a debt of gratitude for her father's life. The Huang family took repaying debts of gratitude very seriously. Hours passed, and Huzi eventually left. I felt obligated to escort Sui home. Mother Su instructed me to ensure Sui reached home safely. Mother Su insisted Sui take a bag of beans from their private plot, as the village allowed small-scale personal gardening. I agreed. Despite Sui's polite refusals, Mother Su added 2 cans of hawthorn fruit, intended for my younger sister, to the gift bag. I, seeing the back and forth, simply took the cans and placed them in my basket, ready to leave. Sui playfully swatted me for grabbing her arm, then reluctantly followed me to borrow a bicycle from the village head. I went to the village head's house, while Sui waited with Mother Su. I returned with the bike and told Sui to hold on to my clothes to avoid falling. Sui swatted my shoulder for my bluntness but complied, smiling at Mother Su as they departed. As we rode, I teased that people would think she was visiting her in-laws. Sui blushed and threatened to pinch me if I didn't stop. I continued to tease her, claiming the village dogs and children would soon recognize me as her regular visitor. Sui grew increasingly flustered behind me. She pinched me again, expressing her annoyance. The bumpy ride caused Sui to press against my back repeatedly. Sui realized I was intentionally choosing the roughest, bumpiest paths. She pinched my waist in retaliation. I endured the pinching in silence, knowing that complaining would only make her angrier. I asked about her brother's upcoming wedding. Sui retorted that I was just trying to deflect. She teased me back, saying her brother might find me annoying. Their banter escalated. Distracted, the bike tipped over, and I grabbed Sui, rolling down a slope together. We landed face to face, inches apart. Sui's heart raced from the fall and the sudden proximity. She looked flustered and alluring. I, mentally older, couldn't resist the innocent girl and leaned in. As I held her tightly, Sui felt my warmth and breath. When she didn't resist, I kissed her. She eventually pushed me away, frustrated. As she tried to stand, she cried out in pain, sitting back down and weeping. She was overwhelmed by the sudden kiss and her own confusion. I tried to comfort her as she sobbed. I promised to take full responsibility. I sat beside her and pulled her into my lap to soothe her. Sui was shocked by my boldness. Yet, after the kiss, she found the intimacy acceptable. After she calmed down, I kissed her again, then helped her back onto the bike. I suggested she sit on the front frame. She refused, worried about gossip, but I insisted I would propose soon. Sui rolled her eyes at my confidence. I delivered her home, urging her to hint at our relationship to her family. I left at the village entrance to spare her embarrassment. I returned to Sanshuiwan and found my father, brother, and village secretary Su Daqiang discussing the wedding. I was eager to ensure my brother's marriage succeeded, knowing his brother's bleak future in the original timeline. My brother confirmed the wedding was set. They planned to get the introduction letters tomorrow and register the day after. In this era, whirlwind marriages were common. Waiting months was considered improper, so most rural couples married quickly. That's great news. You two should discuss the details, I said, gesturing for my brother, Su Sheng, to step aside for a private talk. Su Sheng, grateful for my constant support, followed me out, assuming I needed help with something. Take this 100 yuan. Tomorrow, get the necessary paperwork, go to Lijiawa, and bring Sister Xiuqin into town. Actually, Huzi and I will go with you. We need to buy everything: thermoses, quilts, pillows, basins, mirrors, alcohol, candy, and meat. I'll head into the mountains tomorrow to hunt for the rest. Isn't 100 yuan too much for all that? Su Sheng asked. I sighed, rubbing my temples. Sister Xiuqin's family is struggling. She can't show up in rags for her own wedding. We lack cloth and cotton coupons, and there's no time to make new quilts. We have to buy them ready-made. If we need coupons, we'll just pay extra. The clerks will be happy to part with them for a higher price. Beyond her clothes, you need new shoes for both of you, plus bedding, decorations, and candy. Stop arguing and take the money. I then set out to build a square table and master chairs, planning to varnish them so they'd be ready for the new house by the day after tomorrow. Su Sheng, realizing the urgency, pocketed the money and joined me in moving lumber. Can you really finish this in time, third brother? Don't worry, I'll pull an all-nighter if I have to. I finished the furniture in half a day, leaving Su Sheng to handle the simple task of applying the varnish. After a full day and some late-night work, they finished the wash basin stand, completing the set. My incredible stamina and carpentry skills made the impossible possible, though I had to cancel my plans with Huzi for the day. The next day, Su Sheng went to Lijiawa to fetch Li Xiuqin, while Huzi and I took an ox cart to town to haul our supplies. When they arrived at the state-run store, Su Sheng was already shopping with Xiuqin. Huzi, watch the cart. I'm going in to find my brother. I entered, and shortly after, the three emerged carrying bags full of goods. They bought 2 red wedding quilts, 2 thermoses, a basin, a mirror, and an alarm clock, my wedding gift to signify a lifetime of harmony. You two keep shopping. Huzi and I are heading to the market for vegetables. Since the couple could handle the smaller items, Huzi and I left them to their errands. At the market, they bought cabbage and vermicelli, the perfect combination for a meat stew. Let's check the supply and marketing cooperative for fish, I suggested. The cooperative often received seasonal allocations, like fish for the New Year or mooncakes for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Sometimes, they would buy bulk hauls from communes that had drained ponds or irrigation ditches, reselling them at a markup. They got lucky and bought 2 baskets of fish, which were cheap and required no coupons. Let's head back. We'll hunt this afternoon, and tonight, you'll accompany me to the black market to buy grain. While many rural weddings were simple or skipped ceremonies entirely, I wanted to celebrate my brother's marriage properly. With Su been arrested, This wedding was a much-needed, joyous occasion. No problem, I'll go with you tonight, Huzi agreed. The game I hunt today is for tomorrow's feast, so I won't be splitting it with you, I clarified. Huzi didn't mind. He understood the importance of the wedding feast. Since meat coupons were scarce and communal slaughtering was rare, hunting was the only way to secure enough food for the guests. Back home, Huzi and I grabbed our rifles, I taking 30 rounds of ammunition and leaving my bow behind. We'll split up and meet here in an hour. If I'm not back, I'll fire a shot into the air. Why split up? Huzi asked. I, not wanting to reveal my system-boosted efficiency, replied. We'll cover more ground this way. We only have the afternoon. Huzi nodded, and they headed in opposite directions. I entered slaughter mode. Huzi could hear the distinct, powerful cracks of the Mauser rifle echoing through the woods. Asterisk bang, bang, bang. Asterisk as I hunted, I funneled my points into my parkour skill, reaching level 7. My stats: age 19, physique 18, strength 27, speed 20, endurance 22. Skills: fishing 4-3, archery 4-9, tracking 4-7, dog training 4-1, combat 4-4, butchery 4-17, rock climbing 4-7, marksmanship 4-8, carpentry 4-5, parkour 4-7. Points: 0. The parkour training boosted my strength, speed, and endurance significantly. With my new agility, I moved through the terrain effortlessly, tracking and gunning down prey with ease. The noise of the gunfire actually helped me, as the panicked animals ran right into my path. Brother, you're back? Look what I got. I was stunned to see a sick deer at Huzi's feet, an impressive feat for a first-time hunter. That's incredible. You've done as well as I have. I displayed my haul: 5 pheasants, 3 rabbits, 5 wolves, and a small wild boar. Did you run into a pack? Huzi asked. A dozen of them were attacking this boar. I killed 5, and the rest fled. The boar was crippled, so it couldn't escape. I had prioritized the wolves to prevent them from turning on me. Wolves were cunning. If you didn't strike them hard, they would linger or ambush you later. I tied the nearly 300-pound haul together. Between the wolves, the boar, and the small game, the weight was substantial. Huzi's deer was over 100 pounds, making their total haul quite significant. Let's head back, this is enough. In just over an hour, I had hunted aggressively using my heightened senses, while Huzi had benefited from the game I flushed out. Huzi was used to my freakish strength, so he wasn't surprised when I hoisted the entire load onto my back. They returned home, but Xiuqin hadn't arrived yet. I left the final preparations to the couple, wanting them to feel involved in their own wedding. Huzi skinned the 5 wolves, feeding the organs to Huzi and the hearts to the eagle. I meticulously separated the meat from the bones. I then prepared the wild boar, using a stick to hold it over a fire to singe the hair before scraping, cleaning, and gutting it. To save time, I skinned the sick deer while Huzi handled the boar. I suggested Huzi take the deer meat to the black market to sell. Huzi refused, insisting the deer be a wedding gift for Shanggur, with some meat set aside for Old Manly. Knowing Huzi's stubbornness and having funded his rifle, I didn't argue over the ownership of the kill. They minced the wolf and boar meat into a basin, planning to stew it with cabbage and vermicelli for the entire village the next day. The sick deer meat was kept separate to provide my older brother with strength for his wedding night. After handing off the chores to his mother and Lao Si, I and Huzi rode our bikes to the city with the pelts. En route to Fifth Master's commune, they encountered my brother and Li Xiuqin. I noticed my brother's joyful expression. Li Xiuqin revealed they had just visited the Civil Affairs Bureau to register their marriage. She showed them the simple marriage certificate, a paper bearing their handprints, an official seal, and a photo with a blessing. Huzi offered congratulations, and my brother handed out candies. My brother then insisted on escorting them to the city. I explained our plan, and my brother decided to accompany them to the black market for safety. Though unaware of my past trouble, my brother knew the black market was dangerous. His reputation as Shanggur of the 7th Middle School provided protection. His notoriety among local thugs was well known, a necessary status for survival in that environment. I agreed. They arrived at Fifth Master's place before closing, delivering 5 wolf pelts and 1 sick deer pelt. Fifth Master paid them 10 yuan for the lot. The price reflected the pelts being semi-processed and the deer pelt having 2 bullet holes, but the payment was fair. After leaving, I and Huzi waited for my brother near the commune, smoking and killing time. My brother arrived, breathless from his errands. He had been busy dropping off Xiuqin and storing their belongings, but they were still well ahead of schedule for the black market. They decided to grab a meal first. My brother handed me a wad of leftover cash from the wedding funds. I refused, telling him to keep it for his new life. Despite my previous financial support, the couple had been incredibly frugal, leaving a significant surplus. My brother agreed to pay for the meal. I didn't mind. I had already spent hundreds on Huzi's gear and simply wanted to ensure my brother's future was better than my past. They ordered dumplings, stir-fried meat, and scrambled eggs at the state-run restaurant. I handed over a meat ration coupon, noting the absence of Manager Fan. They spoke to Xiuli, the waiter who had helped them previously. Xiuli revealed Manager Fan had been promoted to the city. The new manager was named Pang, and Xiuli hurried off to avoid being caught slacking. Despite the iron rice bowl security, no one wanted to provoke a new manager. The trio ate, and I excused myself to find Master Lu. I had arranged to meet the chef to discuss the change in management. I asked if the restaurant would still accept game meat. I needed a reliable, fast outlet for my hunting spoils to avoid the price gouging of the supply cooperatives. Master Lu replied that the decision rested solely with the new manager. I asked for an introduction to Manager Pang. I needed to turn my hunting efforts into actual income to improve my family's life. I slipped Master Lu 2 packs of cigarettes to secure the introduction. Master Lu was hesitant. He didn't know the new manager's temperament and feared overstepping. He worried that Manager Pang might already have his own connections or relatives to favor. However, due to their existing rapport, Master Lu agreed to help. Manager Pang emerged, and I politely explained my business. Pang immediately raised concerns about safety inspections and potential health risks. He hinted that he needed to verify the quality of the meat personally. It was a blatant demand for a bribe, a free supply of game sent to his home. I realized Pang was a short-sighted, greedy man, far inferior to Manager Fan. I politely declined, stating I would take my business to the city instead. Pang scoffed and insulted Master Lu for bringing him trash. I felt guilty for the trouble caused to Master Lu. Master Lu dismissed the incident, claiming it was just Pang's personality. I privately thought Pang was an idiot for alienating his head chef, the backbone of the restaurant. Even in a state-run establishment, such behavior was self-destructive. I apologized again for the trouble. I considered briefly if I should have bribed Pang, but decided my hard-earned game was too valuable to waste on such a man. I realized that if I agreed to Manager Pang's demands, I would be exploited indefinitely. If I failed to provide game meat, Pang would surely find excuses to lower prices or cut me off entirely. Rather than submit, I decided to look toward the commune or supply and marketing cooperative. Sending goods to the city was too far to be practical. I'm fine, but what about you? The commune won't pay well for game, I noted. Master Lu then returned with a slip of paper. This is Wei Huide, my junior apprentice. He's the head chef at the local steel mill. They definitely need meat, though I'm not sure if they take small quantities. Mention my name and ask him. Master Lu's connections were impressive. A steel mill's head chef would certainly need meat, though my small supply of 3 or 5 pheasants might only suffice for the leadership's private meals, if they accepted it at all. Understood. I'll try my luck another day. Thank you, Master Lu. After Shengguer settled the bill, the 3 left the state-run restaurant. Having overheard my conversation with the greedy Manager Pang, Huzi was furious. Brother you, that fat pig is too full of himself. Just because he manages a few dozen people, he thinks he can extort us? Should we jump him tonight and teach him a lesson? In these times, a random beating was rarely investigated. Without surveillance or witnesses, the public security had no way to solve such cases. Forget it. He's just a manager with no ambition. Let's just consider ourselves unlucky. Manager Pang was a stark contrast to the former Manager Fan. The state-run restaurant had fewer than 20 staff members, including the chefs, servers, and accountant. Manager Fan, however, had successfully leveraged his position to secure a promotion to the city, likely as a kitchen director at a factory, a massive step up. Some people strive for more, while others settle. I pocketed the note. Enough about Pang. Let's head to the black market and wait for dark. Do we have the scarves, sweaters, gloves, and coats? Disguises were essential for the black market, especially with those 3 thugs patrolling the area. They risked returning because they were in urgent need, and the black market offered enough anonymity. The previous incident occurred because their clothes and bicycles were too recognizable. If the thugs hadn't recognized them after seeing the same gear twice, they would have been truly dim-witted. Today was different. I had changed my clothes. They brought 2 bicycles, with Huzi staying outside to guard them while the others shopped. At their usual spot, the 3 crouched down. I and Shingutter smoked while Huzi kept watch. It's dark, and people are arriving. Let's go after this cigarette. Huzi, stay here and watch the bikes. Be careful. Huzi nodded, brandishing a wooden club. I and Shingutter also tucked clubs into our waistbands, hidden by our coats. I flicked my cigarette away, pulled my scarf over my face, donned my hat, and stepped out. Shingutter followed. They paid the entry fee separately. Brother, let's split up and buy separately, I whispered. They entered the market 10 meters apart, pretending to be strangers. They soon regrouped, I carrying 60 jin of cornmeal and Shingutter carrying 100 jin. As they turned to leave, I stopped at a stall. Uncle, what are you selling? Potatoes, the man replied. About 100 jin here. You won't have any trouble if you buy this, right? I wondered if the goods were stolen from the collective, a common occurrence despite militia patrols. Don't worry, these are from my own private plot, the man insisted. I didn't press him. In the black market, asking about origins was pointless. People even traded forbidden items like antiques, which were considered for olds. Compared to antiques, a bag of potatoes was trivial. If the goods were legitimate, they would be sold at the public market, but the black market offered a different kind of access. How much? 5 yuan for the whole bag. It's over 75 jin. 5 yuan was expensive, but the black market operated on a monopoly. You couldn't buy 70 jin of potatoes at a public market. Procurement officers would have cleared them out instantly. Public markets had strict quotas to ensure fair distribution, not to satisfy bulk buyers. The black market had no limits, as long as you had the money. Deal. I handed over the 5 yuan. The man was delighted. Under the bright moonlight, I inspected the potatoes. Need help getting this on your shoulder, little brother? The man asked. He doubted I could carry the potatoes on top of the cornmeal. No need. I hoisted the bag with one hand and threw it onto my shoulder. As I walked away, onlookers who had pegged me as an easy target quickly looked away, realizing I was a powerhouse. Shingutter, standing 1.95 meters tall and incredibly burly, also drew no trouble. My strength was hidden. I looked lean but was physically enhanced. Shingutter, however, looked undeniably formidable. Why buy so many potatoes? We can't eat them all at once, Shingutter noted. Bringing 100 jin home would raise suspicions of black market activity. Cornmeal was different, as trading grain coupons was a common, albeit gray, practice. We'll eat them slowly. Brother, you go ahead. I'm going to look around. Shingutter nodded and headed back to Huzi to ensure the bikes were safe. Give me the cornmeal, I'll carry it, Shingutter said, taking the 60 jin before leaving. I approached a man in a military overcoat who was discreetly trading items with others. It was a coupon scalper, a form of speculation that the public security often targeted. Yet, these scalpers were often lifesavers for families desperate for necessities like milk powder that the state couldn't provide. Looking for something, friend? The scalper asked. Seeing my strength, the scalper kept his tone polite, prioritizing business over conflict. What coupons do you have? Let me see if there's anything I need. The scalper frowned, annoyed by the blunt demand, but his experience with all sorts of people kept him from losing his temper, though he remained cold. I've got plenty of coupons, but do you have the cash to back it up? Ignoring the scalper's irritation, I replied, I'm a serious buyer, not here to waste your time. Let me take a look. I won't touch them. Seeing me step back to keep my distance, the scalper relaxed, realizing the man was just blunt, not malicious. Fine, take a look. I pulled out a stack of ration coupons, including national grain coupons, sugar, cloth, and the highly coveted watch, sewing machine, malt extract, and powdered milk coupons. I noted the scalper's connections. Obtaining watch and sewing machine coupons was one thing, but malt extract and powdered milk coupons implied he knew high-ranking officials or families with pregnant women who who had access to such rare supplies. How much for the milk, malt extract, watch, and sewing machine coupons? When I claimed I wanted them all, the scalper frowned, suspecting he was being played. I understood the skepticism. These items were expensive, and the scalper doubted my purchasing power. Without a word, I set down my potatoes and pulled a stack of 500 yuan from my inner pocket. Though I knew better than to flaunt wealth, I needed to prove my intent. I wasn't worried about being targeted in this secluded spot, as the transaction would be significant enough to deter the scalper from any foolish ideas. Seeing the thick stack of cash, clearly over 100 yuan, the scalper's attitude shifted from contempt to caution. All right, let me count them out for you. 2 Shanghai brand watch coupons, for the 230 yuan model. 50 yuan each, not expensive, right? A sewing machine coupon for 45. You wouldn't get this price if I weren't in a desperate hurry for cash. I didn't haggle, merely gesturing for him to continue. I didn't believe the man's excuse about needing money. It was clear the scalper saw me as a target, but I chose not to argue. 4 cans of malt extract and 2 of powdered milk. 5 yuan per coupon for the extract, 8 for the milk. Fair, right? I was speechless. The milk powder wasn't even worth 8 yuan, and I knew the actual price of malt extract. The man was clearly treating me like a fool. Remaining calm, I signaled him to go on. I also have a bicycle coupon. If you take the whole lot, I can sell it to you privately. Usually, high-value items like bicycle, watch, or sewing machine coupons were seized by the black market bosses to be resold at a markup. Since they ran the market, they naturally wouldn't settle for mere maintenance fees when they could profit directly. Some scalpers sell privately to avoid the black market bosses, offering lower prices to stay under the radar and ensure sales. I don't need a bicycle coupon, but your prices for other ration coupons are dishonest. Don't take me for a fool. I suspected the man mistook me for a privileged youth from a military compound, unlike the wealthy, reckless types in the capital who could afford lavish meals and steal silverware. I was just a hunter. My confident demeanor and cash had clearly caused a misunderstanding, as military brats were notorious for their arrogance and brawls. Unlike those youths who spent freely knowing the state would provide for them, I was self-reliant and had to be careful with every cent. Fine. What price are you looking for? The scalper realized his initial quote was too high, though he justified the black market's premium as compensation for the inherent risk of arrest. Seeing my display of wealth, the scalper assumed I was a naive rich kid and quoted an inflated price. When I called his bluff, the scalper remained unfazed, treating it as a standard negotiation tactic. The scalper countered, 2 watch coupons for 50, sewing machine for 25, malt extract and milk powder coupons for 20, and the cloth and sugar coupons for 5. How about it? The scalper was insulted by the lowball offer and nearly walked away. A sewing machine coupon could fetch 50 yuan. His quote of 45 was already fair, yet I had slashed it in half. His quote for the watch coupon was even more egregious. At 25 yuan, it was a steal. He hadn't even attempted to gouge the price. The scalper knew the art of the deal. Mix reasonable prices with high ones to avoid looking like a fool. Buddy, you're playing me. That cut is too deep. If you can find these at that price, I'll buy as many as you can get. Realizing I had overplayed my hand, I asked for a final, honest price. The scalper relented. 2 watch coupons for 85, sewing machine for 40, for malt extract coupons for 12, 2 milk powder coupons for 9, 10 feet of cloth for 8, and 3 pounds of sugar for 1.5. That's 155 yuan total. Fair, right? Given that a Shanghai watch cost 280 yuan and required a coupon, the total value was over 270 yuan. I was saving 10 yuan, which was reasonable. I agreed and asked if he had a radio coupon. The scalper smiled, recognizing a man of taste. I don't have one on me, but I can get a Seagull brand coupon from a contact for 38 yuan. Deal. The scalper defended his margins, noting that Seagull coupons were rare commodities that money alone couldn't buy. He reminded me that the coupons themselves were more valuable than the goods, as the real struggle was obtaining the legal right to purchase items. I agreed. Even in a place like the rolling mill, only high-ranking officials could secure rare items like television coupons to stay informed. Radios, while less restricted, were still highly sought after. I handed over 193 yuan for the lot. I then asked to buy all of his local grain coupons, declining the national ones. National coupons were useful for travel and could be traded for more local grain, but I didn't want the hassle of speculation. I preferred the simplicity of local coupons. You want them all? Are you sure? Seeing my nod, the man quickly tallied the local grain coupons. 500 pounds of coarse grain and 120 pounds of fine grain, all local. At 8 cents for fine and 5 for coarse, that's 34.6 yuan total. Let's just call it 14 yuan for the coupons. The scalper demanded a premium equal to 1/3 of the grain's total value. The scalper didn't need to calculate individual rates. He simply ensured his total profit margin remained intact. I paid the amount without further argument and left. I departed, leaving the scalper ecstatic. By selling a month's worth of ration coupons in one go, the scalper made a significant profit, far exceeding his usual meager earnings from small, incremental trades. The sheer volume of my purchase meant a quick, substantial payday, allowing the scalper to reinvest and continue trading without waiting weeks for small gains. What took you so long? What did you buy? Huzi and Xiuqin asked, waiting patiently on the ground. I kept the coupons in my pocket, viewing them as essential insurance against potential future famines. Nothing much. Let's leave before we attract any trouble. The trio mounted their bikes. I carried 100 caddies of coarse grain and 100 caddies of potatoes, while my older brother, Xiuqin, took 60 caddies of cornmeal and Huzi. They arrived home by 9 o'clock. Thanks, Huzi. Come over early tomorrow to help with the wedding procession at Lijiawa, Xiuqin said. Xiuqin knew that without Huzi, moving the supplies would have been suspicious. With 2 men, they appeared as 2 separate groups rather than a target for theft. Don't worry, I'll be there, Huzi promised. As they reached home, I stopped Xiuqin. Wait, there are guests. I'll hide the grain first. I effortlessly carried the 200 caddies into my younger sister's room, stashing the grain and potatoes under her bed. Xiuqin brought the cornmeal inside, where they found 2 familiar faces waiting in the main hall. Uncle Daqiang, third uncle, you're here? The 2 elders nodded. Since they were close kin, there was no need to hide the black market trip, though I remained cautious about the quantity. Xiuqin, we're discussing your wedding. Your father showed us the supplies you brought back. Are you planning a grand celebration? The sheer amount of candy suggested they intended to host the entire village. Not grand, but I don't want to slight her. I'll invite the village for a meal. My brother hunted wild game, and we have cabbage to serve with it. Su Daqiang realized the game and cabbage were cheap, but the cornmeal for the flatbreads would be the real expense. What about the grain? Should I bring you 10 caddies of cornmeal tomorrow? At current prices, 30 caddies of cornmeal would cost around 1 yuan and 60 or 70 cents. For a rural family, this was a generous offer, as most only earned 2 or 3 yuan a month. Third uncle, Su Yuanzhong, flushed with embarrassment. His own family barely had enough to eat, let alone spare. Many families were so destitute they had to stretch their rations with wild greens just to survive the month. No need, uncle, I interrupted. I've been hunting and sold some game to a restaurant owner who moved to the city. I have enough savings to cover the wedding. I placed a bag of cornmeal on the table, the distinct scent confirming its contents to the hungry men. Su Daqiang understood the subtext and dropped the subject, sparing third uncle further embarrassment. Fine then. Su Yu, Huzi, Daong, and Xiangzi, you 4 will be responsible for the wedding procession tomorrow. Su Daqiang finalized the plan, including Xiangzi, a distant relative from the same clan. In the village, clan members meant anyone sharing the same ancestors, regardless of how distant the relation. The procession required young men of similar age to the groom, so the specific degree of kinship mattered less than the connection. Everyone agreed, and the elders soon departed. I went to my room, reflecting on the simplicity of rural weddings. Some were just a marriage certificate and candy, while others involved elaborate rituals. Whether simple or complex, the goal was to celebrate within one's means without causing undue hardship. The next morning, Xiuqin borrowed a bicycle from a neighbor in Meijiawan to accommodate the group. The team, I, Huzi, Daong, Xiangzi, and Xiuqin, set off to fetch the bride, Xiuqin. My well-maintained bicycle, decorated with a red flower, led the way. Upon arriving at Lijiawa, they were greeted by a crowd of excited children. I and the others tossed candy and red-dyed, date-filled buns to the crowd. One bun contained a hidden coin, symbolizing great fortune for the lucky finder. The coin's value depended on the host's wealth, but the gesture was what mattered. It was a clever way to spread joy while saving money on expensive candy. "Stop pushing. You stepped on my foot, kid," Huzi shouted. The children ignored him, knowing the wedding party wouldn't dare cause a scene. They continued to scramble for the treats. I, being smarter, simply tossed the entire bag into the air, scattering the crowd. Inside the house, Xiuqin paid the door fee of red envelopes to reach his bride. The men were served gun dan tang, a bowl of hot water with an egg, a traditional gesture of respect. After drinking, they left money in the bowls as a tip for the bride's female relatives. Legend says this tradition started with Liu Bei, though it served as a way to honor guests and build social ties. I placed 50 cents in each bowl, a very generous amount. This money was a customary perk for the young women serving the guests. My payment ensured they were seen as wealthy and respectful. Xiuqin carried Xiuqin out. She was beautifully adorned with red paper-stained lips and cheeks. After a tearful farewell between the bride and her father, the procession began the journey back. Upon entering their village, they were blocked by more children, but Daniu was prepared with a bag of pure sugar to clear the path. "Take it and eat. Stop causing trouble, understand?" Daniu finished distributing the items quickly. I scanned the crowd and spotted my younger sister leading the blockade. I was speechless. She was actually leading a blockade for my own brother's wedding. I grabbed her ponytail and scooped her up into my arms. "You brat, why are you leading these kids to block your big brother's car? Don't you want a sister-in-law?" The girl giggled, claiming third aunt told her it was fine. I glanced at Daniu, who looked embarrassed and scratched his head. I playfully hit his arm, and we entered the house. "Suhi, come out for a moment." The bride had arrived, and the women were busy cooking under a large makeshift canopy. "Village chief, what's the matter?" Su's father asked. Before the ceremony, the couple must bow to heaven and earth and thank their parents. "Your parents haven't registered any gifts. How will the accountant announce them?" Without a gift record, the accountant couldn't announce the donors, leaving the couple unable to perform their formal bows. With the grandparents still alive, this was a mandatory public ritual the whole village was waiting to see. I didn't know how the issue was resolved, as my mother pulled me aside. "You, ride the bike to Wujia town to pick up your second sister. She's walking, and it's too slow." I hadn't met my eldest sister, Su Li, since my rebirth. Wujia town was 25 kilometers away. She had married far away through a connection of her father's and had a 3-year-old daughter. Because her first child wasn't a boy, her life was difficult, and she rarely contacted her natal family to avoid criticism. "I'm on it." I took the village chief's bike and left, unconcerned with my eldest uncle's family drama now that the bride was home. "Second sister, why are you walking? Where's your husband? Couldn't he send you?" Su Li was delighted to see her brother on a bike, but her expression darkened at the mention of her husband. "He's busy. It's not far. Xiaoya, greet your second uncle." The shy girl, Wu and I, whispered, "Second uncle." I recognized the girl's timid nature as a result of being raised in a household that favored boys. "Don't be afraid." I lifted her down, peeled a candy, and fed it to her. "Is it sweet?" The girl beamed. "Sweet. Mom, you have some." I stopped her and handed a handful of candies to Su Li, plus 3 more for the girl. "Only one a day, or you'll get cavities," I warned. I patted the girl's head, noting how thin and frail she was compared to my own sister. The girl nodded obediently. "Third brother, why give me these? You need them for the wedding. Keep them. My hunting has improved our life, and we have plenty. These are for the girl. Get on the back. I'll hold the girl on the frame." I placed my coat on the bike frame to make a seat for the girl. Despite her protests, I insisted, holding the girl with one hand and steering with the other as we sped off. Su Li wondered how her brother had suddenly become so wealthy, as hunters usually only scraped by. She didn't know about my cheat, which made all the difference. They reached Sanshuiwan in 40 minutes, my speed impressive despite the bumpy dirt road. "Sister, here is 5 Yuan for the gift registry," I said, moving her to tears. "Don't be like that. I know your situation. Your mother-in-law won't give you money, so just take it. We're family." I felt obligated to help. With thousands in my pocket, I couldn't let my sister lose face. Su Li accepted the money, which was a generous gift for a sibling. I didn't want to be stingy. I wanted my sister to hold her head high. I took the girl inside while Li went to register the gift. Yaya, call your grandmother. I brought the girl to the kitchen to report back to my mother. Grandmother. The girl clung to me, nervous, but managed to greet her grandmother. Oh, my sweet granddaughter. Let grandma get you some meat. My mother gave the girl a pheasant leg and sent them to Su Jing's room to eat. Soon, Li greeted the rest of the family before visiting the newlyweds. Though only 22, Li looked exhausted and much older than the bride, Xiuqin. I helped set the tables and asked Huzi, "Is brother Yuan worried?" "Yes, the grandparents won't come. My dad and uncle tried to invite them, but it's unlikely. If they and the eldest uncle don't show, it'll be a joke." I didn't care. The eldest uncle already hated me for exposing the truth about the educated youth. If they knew I'd helped the police catch their son, they'd be even angrier. I didn't care that my eldest uncle's family skipped the wedding. I viewed their kinship as a mere pretext for exploitation and felt no disappointment at their absence. While I was rational, Su Deong felt distressed, as rural folk often placed excessive importance on face and social appearances, matters I dismissed entirely. By noon, the village chief resolved the issue by having He cover the gift money for the eldest uncle's family, a mere bookkeeping formality to save face. I was stunned by this self-deception. They were essentially inventing a gift to maintain appearances, leaving the truth to fate. In short, they just needed to maintain a facade to get through the day. An unexpected guest arrived near noon, surprising me. Old man Huang, big brother Huang Shan, why are you here? Old man Huang and his son arrived with 3 Yuan in gift money, a significant sum in the village, proving their status as honored guests. I, Huzi, and Su's father rushed to welcome them. Once the gift was recorded, they were ushered inside as VIPs. The village chief, despite his busy schedule, came to oversee the event, as custom dictated that a respected elder, not the host, should manage the proceedings. Su's father remained to host the VIPs, as his status as the bride's matchmaker and representative required him to show proper respect. Su's father greeted them warmly, apologizing for not sending me to fetch them. I kept my distance, already guessing the reason for Old Man Huang's visit. Old Man Huang's hints confirmed my suspicion. He viewed their families as already united, signaling an intent to discuss the marriage. Su's father was initially confused until he noticed my evasive behavior, which made the situation clear. Su's father pulled me aside to confirm my feelings. Satisfied with my response, he returned to the banquet with a much lighter heart. Su's father seized the opportunity to discuss the marriage of me and Huang Sui with the respected elders present. Old man Huang was surprised that the Su family head brought up the marriage during the eldest son's wedding banquet. The guests were equally taken aback by the sudden proposal. However, everyone supported the match, and a tipsy old man Huang readily agreed. I, unaware of the deal, watched as the wedding ceremony proceeded with the couple bowing and receiving gifts from the elders. After the gift list was read and the couple bowed to each other, firecrackers signaled the start of the feast. The firecrackers also served as a public announcement for guests to come and eat. I and my younger brother, Xiuqin, busied ourselves serving the guests, ensuring the VIP table received the traditional 6-dish spread. This level of formality was my initiative, funded by my own contributions. By evening, the newlyweds returned from ancestral rites, facing the traditional playful harassment from villagers. The festivities concluded around 7, the typical bedtime in the village. The family and close neighbors cleaned up, distributing the leftover food among themselves and the village chief. Exhausted, the family retired for the night. The next morning, the groom, Su Sheng, appeared tired, clearly having had a busy night. Xiuqin was shy, but my second sister helped her settle in comfortably. Su Sheng spent the day doting on his wife, much to my amusement. I insisted that my second sister, Su Li, stay longer, promising to escort her home later. Su's father told me that he and old man Huang had agreed to schedule their engagement soon to avoid gossip about holding 2 weddings too close together. I agreed, as I had no objections to the match. I remained indifferent to the specific timing, trusting my father's judgment. Su's father instructed me to escort my sister home later. My niece, Yaya, cried at the thought of leaving, having enjoyed her time at her grandmother's house. I suggested she stay longer, noting it was common for children to spend time with their grandparents. It was a standard practice in the village for children to spend extended periods at their maternal grandparents' homes. Suli looked to her mother for the final decision. Lu Yuji readily agreed, telling Suli not to worry about the burden. Suli expressed concern about the trouble, but her mother dismissed it. Lu Yuji noted that caring for one more child was no trouble at all. Su Jing was delighted and immediately took Yaya out to play. Lu Yuji warned them to stay away from the river, and I prepared to head into town. I planned to buy supplies for my sister, who was often neglected by her in-laws. I reassured my sister and set off for the city. Meanwhile, the new bride began the tradition of visiting relatives to receive red envelopes, led by her sister-in-law. In the city, I used my ration coupons to buy 100 pounds of grain for my sister. I also purchased fabric, shoes, and children's clothing from the store. I impulsively bought myself a watch for over 200 yuan, unfazed by the cost. I gathered the grain, fabric, and a second-hand outfit for my sister, ensuring she would have something decent to wear. I also bought pastries for Yaya before returning home by noon. Su Xing noticed my secretive behavior upon my return. I had been trying to hide the grain from prying eyes in the village. I explained that I bought the supplies because my sister and niece were too thin and needed the support. I felt a deep bond with my second sister, Su Li, who was older than me and acted as a true sister figure. Not bad. You've grown up, third brother. But where did you get this? Didn't we just clear out the black market? 100 caddies of grain was a significant amount to acquire outside of the black market. It's from the black market, using grain coupons. It's legitimate. I even have the slip from the grain bureau. I wanted to ensure my sister faced no trouble, so I stuck to official channels. At noon, I took Su Li out of the village. She snacked on scallion pancakes I'd bought along the way. Su Li offered me a bite, but I declined, saying I'd already eaten in town. Su Li was overjoyed. Her brother had brought her cloth, 100 caddies of grain, 20 caddies of sika deer meat, and new clothes and shoes for her and Yaya. She was genuinely happy to see her brother succeeding. Riding their mother's bicycle, she felt a sense of pride unmatched in Wujia town. She boasted that no one in town had a brother as supportive as hers. They arrived at her home in under 2 hours. I'll open the gate. Stay for a while, third brother. I wish I could keep you for lunch. No need, sis. I'll just help move the grain into your room. I quickly opened the gate. Su Li, you finally returned? Abandoning your chores for days? What kind of wife are you? I was shocked to see my sister being berated immediately upon her return. Ahem. Mother, this is my brother, the third one. You've met him before. I suppressed my urge to kick the old woman, remembering she was my sister's mother-in-law. I recalled the sadness in my sister's eyes when she'd left for our parents' home earlier. I hadn't pried then, knowing that interfering in family dynamics was complex, especially regarding my niece, Yaya. I knew that without status or wealth, my sister had few options. I couldn't simply force a change in her circumstances. I chose not to intervene, knowing only the wearer knows if the shoe fits. However, seeing her bullied was different. The old woman's eyes lit up at the sight of the meat on the bike. She quickly realized the new clothes and supplies were gifts from me. Her attitude shifted instantly. I remained cold, prepared to snap if she pushed further. Second daughter-in-law, come help carry these things, she ordered. No need, I can do it, I replied. I carried the grain, meat, and pastries, one bag for my sister, one for Yaya and Su Jing, inside. A well-dressed, plump young woman emerged, looking far less overworked than Su Li. I ignored them, heading straight to my sister's room with the supplies. Su Li felt embarrassed, but as her mother-in-law began to mutter, I interrupted. Sis, come here. Where's the bathroom? I had been holding my bladder since the trip. Su Li followed me, ignoring her mother-in-law's glare. The Wu family's second daughter-in-law retreated with her son and the mother-in-law. I wanted my sister away from the toxic environment. It's outside. I'll show you, Su Li said. They stepped out together. Returning from the bathroom, I encountered my brother-in-law. Brother-in-law, you're back? I kept my cool, despite my disdain for the man's lack of protection for his wife. I would help my sister, but only if my principles were crossed. Third brother, you're here. I caught some fish. Let's have a drink tonight. I declined the invitation to stay for dinner. I wanted to observe the situation knowing I couldn't change the era's deep-seated prejudices overnight. I understood that moralizing to the ignorant was futile. Change required systemic pressure or clever manipulation. Like the ancient government using taxes to curb infanticide, I knew logic rarely worked on the stubborn. Myths and consequences were more effective than lectures. Leaving so soon? All right then. They returned inside, only to find the pastries missing from the bed. I saw the second daughter-in-law's son eating the stolen pastries while his mother watched. My temper flared instantly. Before my brother-in-law could react, I marched over and slapped the child. The boy fell, wailing loudly. It was clear the family favored the second son over Su Li's household. Su Li realized immediately what had happened. "What are you doing, hitting my child?" the woman demanded. I grabbed the bag. Only one remained. Why? Because I bought these. Where's the other bag? I, standing 1.85 meters tall, radiated a lethal aura born from hunting tigers. My intense, menacing gaze immediately intimidated second brother's wife. My sister and brother-in-law rushed over, with the brother-in-law warning me not to resort to violence. It was my sister who spoke, as her husband had already grasped the situation. Seeing her husband and mother-in-law present, second brother's wife regained her arrogance. She wailed, accusing me of bullying a child over a few pastries. Ignoring her, I tossed the remaining half-bag of pastries to my sister and strode toward the woman, despite my brother-in-law's pleas for restraint. The brother-in-law felt conflicted. While his nephew's behavior was shameful, he couldn't allow me to strike his sister-in-law. I moved like a gust of wind, grabbing the woman by the throat and lifting her off the ground. The woman, weighing over 100 pounds, felt as light as a feather in my grip. Old woman Wu emerged to find her grandson crying and her daughter-in-law being throttled by me. She frantically demanded that I release her daughter-in-law.